Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Here's the pitch from Bauman. Swung on, and there's a high fly ball. Deep left center field. Way back there. Home run, Arias. Beyond the Orioles' pen and into the Guardians' bullpen. A mammoth shot off the bat of Arias.
0-2 pitch. Line down the right field line. This is up, and it is gone. Abraham Toro goes deep just inside the right field foul pole. And the Brewers with a 2-0 lead as Toro with his first of the season.
1-1. The Marlins can head home happy. The pitch to Fortes. A ground ball, fair ball! A fair ball! The Marlins walk off the Padres! They do it! Fortes flying around first. Segura scores. The Marlins walk off the Padres in the bottom of the ninth inning. They played a pair off one of the best in baseball in Josh Hader.
I would like to say that I'm never rattled. I'm very calm. I'm very consistent in everything that I do, whether it's before the game, after the game, during the game. And I think when my guys look at me like that, they follow suit in every single way. And I love that about them because they're never sure. No matter what, we could be down. People could think that we're out. And all of a sudden, it's like we're right back in this thing. And it's because we do the same thing every day. We love being around one another. We want to see each other succeed. We really do enjoy when each other play well. And we're going to continue to do that. We're never going to get rattled. We're going to see where we end up.
Hey, we open up today with breaking news. It's raining.
I was like, wait, where are we going with this? The funny thing is I was talking to my boy, Joe B. He's JB in my phone. He's JBKC. Does that rhyme? Anyway, we were kind of just chopping it up. I was doing food prep yesterday, and he was waiting for his kiddo to get done with camp, so we were kind of going back and forth. And he said something about rain. And he's like, "Yeah, man, it rained. We're a little delayed with our football schedule because we got a ton of rain in Kansas City." And I was like, "Shoot, man,
can we get some of that?"
Yeah, I was like, "I wish we could get some rain, something like that." And I went walking yesterday, and lo and behold, those dark clouds missed us, like swinging a miss, just right on by.
It looked like it was going to hit.
Yeah, I was worried about I was getting dumped on. I was like, shoot, man, I got to get bus hump, man. I got another mile to go.
And you were cooking.
Yeah.
So yeah,
not quite yet. I was setting up. I was letting the flowers sit. Because that's the key, man. When we don't fry a ton, but when you do, the key is not only is it the cornstarch or baking powder, if you choose, it's up to you for the crunch. You got to let it sit after you dredge it. Mm-hmm. So you got to keep one wet hand, one dry hand. Get your glove game right. But I'm like, shoot, man, we got to hustle. I don't want to stop and talk. My man Lupe Fiasco, though, was in the garage. I'm gonna hang out with Lupe.
Did you walk fast?
I don't have any adult friends over there. Not one.
Okay.
So, I mean, and that's kind of fine,
right.
Whatever. But man, I gotta stay sane, right? I can't just be holed up in the house doing home workouts, right? So,
is this an only summer thought? Or?
Yeah. Because with everybody home, I'm not.
You don't want to just
I'm
stay
not.
there.
I'm not hanging around everybody.
Yeah.
I'm just not. So, but Lupe had a buddy over, another old guy. Why'd I walk fast though, right on by? Because I didn't want to interrupt. But his guy left the car running. He probably was showing him the cornhole boards. I think he was getting is it lacquer? What's the shiny coat thing?
Polyurethane.
Oh gosh, that's a lot of syllables. Polyurethane. That's the clear coat.
Yeah,
I think I've heard of that. I know what that
that's
is.
at least what I used on top of my cornhole boards.
Oh, so you're that guy. Polyurethane.
I am. My cousin painted my cornhole boards back in college.
Yeah.
And he Tremendous artist. Tremendous. He's the guy I actually reached out to about the horses.
I go tremendo for the fettuccine.
And he was always big into drawing in high school, and then he got into painting, and he didn't go through with it ever. It's just like something he can do.
Yeah.
Like a talent that I will never be able to touch.
Like the young man on Equalizer 2 that Robert McCall invested in. He liked to paint and draw.
Yes. Or my boy from White Collar.
He ended up drawing a superhero.
He was more
one that drove in Malibu.
But I gave him 2 blank cornhole boards. On one, and they're both black and white. He painted,
of course,
Adam Wainwright reacting after the 2006 World Series.
That's unfortunate.
Where he
went Wainwright.
2 fists, pump, screaming, looked sick. And then the other one, this was, again, when I got him in college,
another card.
Vladimir Tarasenko on the board. Do you remember when he made the cover?
Says the guy in our group DM the other day that said, I never knew her. Adam referenced Tarasenko, and you're like, never heard of her.
Exactly. And do you remember when he was on the cover of NHL?
Yes.
Not much of a video game guy.
No, NHL used to be my jam.
Mm-hmm.
I only played like 5 games, and that was one of them.
Okay, so knee up, stick in the air, fist pump. That's on the other board. I'll show you during the break. I'll tweet it out.
It was all the EA games. So I play NHL, Tiger Woods, Madden, college football.
Mm-hmm.
The whole 9.
So anyway, we were walking by Lupe.
Yeah, and I was thinking I got to bust some because it's gonna rain, but it did not. So I was pretty disappointed. And I don't run the sprinklers on Thursday.
I did for 3 hours yesterday. 3 hours.
So guess my MUD bill. And it was 2 months old. I don't know. I don't know. I know what happened when I needed the new card. Some stuff kind of got compromised, and I got to go back and get it.
Okay.
Because I'm operating under the fact that it's happening, but it wasn't. What do you think a 2-month MUD bill was?
180. 180.
2 months.
360.
2 months.
980. What would it be?
560 38.
Carry the 2. 720.
560 38.
That was more than the plates that I bought yesterday.
And I think it was probably like 75. I went back. It was like 75.
I guess I forget that you have 4 other people in your house versus me.
Yeah.
Like if I ran my sprinklers all day, every day, I don't even know if I'd touch your bill.
So far away. Couldn't keep money. No. Yeah. So that was, to be honest, it was better than I thought, but still, like, this is not going to happen to me again. So
did you get charged at all? So it's about your card, right? Did you get like fees because you didn't have like the card on file properly?
Because in my accounts, because like there's connected, and so I don't have a withdrawal fee.
Okay.
So at some point, like I know a couple of times in like the past couple of years, especially in the joint, like it's gone to the minus, but it's in another account. So I don't think it like really counts because we have a bill paying account.
Right.
So, I mean, yes and no. So I chalk one up. I'm like,
Is that what he's doing?
Hey, by the way, she does owe me for insurance. That's funny. Thank you, Shane. It's first of the month. It's like
it's always a good thing when it's the first of the month too, because
Bone Thugs and Harmony. It's the first of the month. Wake up.
Sure.
Wake up.
I was
when
thinking,
is it not about music?
I was thinking it was more about money in this case, because it's nice to see my bank account roll back up.
For the love of money, man. So we should have shipped some money. We should. So anyway, thankful for the rain. It's teasing me. It was teasing me. You ever seen Kings of Comedy?
No.
Bernie Mac took care of his sister's kids. It was funny. Go back and watch that skit. You will laugh your head off.
Okay, I'll type it in.
It's anyway. I don't want you too distracted. It's not just dribbling. Can we get some rain?
It's supposed to be 50% all day. If it does this all day, I'd be cool with it.
Okay, so like basically the ACC regional.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
the conference tournament. Because it did this
the
All day.
entire 24 hours of the day.
Listen, when they're coming out to dry the rubber off and to refill the divots on the bump, you're probably playing in some tough conditions. And there's nothing worse than throwing a wet baseball. I'd rather chafe to handle a wet football than throw a wet baseball. And they did that. Man, it pretty much sucks.
So my hands.
You ever had a ball skip through the outfield and have to come up throwing?
Yep. So my hands. My hands aren't big enough to really grip a football.
Yeah, I have monster hands.
I feel like I have more like Shane hands. So
can you palm a basketball? I can do it with either hand.
Maybe for like 2 or 3 seconds.
So that's a net.
Yeah, I can't hold it.
You know where you should ship your money? Ship it to the Lexington Regional.
Yeah.
Well, I totally downplayed when you were talking.
When I brought it up on Wednesday.
Well, you were like going all in, and I was like,
well, because I was mad about a lot of things on Wednesday. It started with the RPI, and then it was Campbell, and then it was the Lexington Regional, and how people.
So I was kind of vibing, but I wasn't really tracking because there are some things that I took for granted. Shane, apparently I'm not in StreamYard. Do you think is Sasha pissed?
Well, she's on vacay. She doesn't know yet.
Oh, well, good. Thank you. Sweet baby G. You think Chris is pissed?
No, you're there.
Chris ain't up yet.
He's probably driving.
Or bouncing a ball somewhere.
Or bouncing his tennis ball.
Dude, you see the stress one he gave me during the meeting?
Yeah, the big guy.
That thing was a monster.
That's not much of a tennis ball, though. It's like a kickball, right?
Is that what that is?
Is it?
I don't know.
A dodgeball?
Doesn't seem like it would travel very far.
Didn't seem like it was very
it was
soft
good. Like
either.
I was getting my squeeze game.
Really?
Right? Yeah.
You could really get down in there?
Get
down on it.
So
get down on it.
I there's some things that I take for granted, and I should know being in a hotel every 3 weeks. Right.
That everything is just perfect.
Can I get the extra linen? And when it's not, I'm kind of like, God, where are the linens for the pullout? They call it a trundle now. It's not a pullout bed. It's a trundle. Trundle.
Why are we changing words?
I don't know.
Why are we changing names?
But I remember when I first used to see that on my Bonvoy accounts. I'm like, what the
Bonvoy?
I had to.
Sorry,
I had to like Google. And sometimes, like, we were just in where were Mike and I? Oh, Des Moines. And Shane, Jordan Creek, home of Shane Schillerberg.
Been there. I was there last week.
Been there. Well,
so
yeah, if that was your home.
So anyway, so I told the young lady, I said, hey, where are the extra linens? And she's like, oh, they're at the front desk. I was like, so when do we got to come down and get the extra linens? Usually they got them in like that cryo chamber type plastic.
Well, especially if you get a room with a pull-out couch. I'm not saying trundle. Especially if you get a room with a pull-out bed, those should automatically be in the closet. Automatically.
So do all the team like what? So then I was looking at the pictures from Cosgrove as we were looking at them on Twitter, and I'm thinking, God, would that be cool? So here's what I think, and I know pillows are a big deal, but as long as I know you're looking at the picture right now, as long as I could do laundry, I think I'm okay.
And you got to go down to the first floor to do it, so it's like a hotel. It's like a hotel.
Do you know how much laundry was at the hotel in Des Moines? $1.
Holy cow.
Dude, I did laundry twice just for the heck of it. I washed Zoe's stuff.
Hey, Zoe, I got quarters.
Yeah, I said, listen, if I brought $5 worth of quarters, we're using it. No, yeah, well, I mean, kind of.
I wouldn't. I would just pack enough so I wouldn't have to do laundry. Now, this is different because you're here for a while. You're getting dirty.
There 30 hours.
And
wouldn't have done laundry. Zoe brought 4 changes of clothes. You'd think you'd be good.
Yeah.
No.
Wasn't?
No. No, very particular.
Got it.
And I wanted to put my foot down, but without Mom there, I was like...
Instead, you put your quarters down into the machine.
I said, yeah, I ain't trying to rock the boat. I almost didn't recover from not being able to do the high pony. I don't want any drama. Again, Bernie Mac, I don't want no trouble.
Whatever you want.
So
I'll do it.
So it was like, okay. But I think I would be cool. I don't know how long. I got to be there, 4 days?
I still think you're burying the lead with this mattress. Like, the mattress doesn't have a pad.
No, come on, man.
Like, you're sleeping on concrete.
Go run to Costco and get the waffle crate.
But it's not about me having to pay to get comfortable.
Yeah.
I should be able to pay a hotel and stay comfortable.
So the only redeeming story out of this is at least when the NCAA blew the women's basketball tournament with their setup, they can't say that it was just a female thing. Because those guys got the
shaft. They got it. for sure.
We're gonna be all right. Hey,
Well,
and listen, I can still see raindrops falling in my head.
I mean,
Hey, can I repurpose that concrete?
maybe.
I need a concrete guy. Hey, ask Thomas. He knows everything.
Yeah. Hey, Thomas, can we steal concrete?
Can you repurpose concrete? Because I only need like one. I don't know how I would get it to the house.
Carry it.
But probably not.
Didn't you walk yesterday?
Yes. There's some potting soil out in a particular yard that's been out for a while.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I don't steal, I kill, but I wonder if I could have walked that potting soil home because I feel like they're not going to use it.
You should walk it home, put it in yours, or replace it with the old stuff and just bring it back. Hey, this is what happens when you leave your potting soil out too long.
That bag has been out there for like 2 weeks.
I've seen a lot of people with mulch out. I've seen a lot of people with soil out. Like, it's just like, I bought it because it was on sale, but I don't feel like doing the work yet.
Ecco tremendo for new fettuccine.
Yeah.
So last night we like lamented about not being spoiled. We finally celebrated Big Head's birthday.
CB's birthday.
And so Micah graced us with his presence about 8:15ish. And
as in, like, he came home at that time, or he came upstairs?
No, he's 13. He better have his little narrow behind.
I was just asking. I didn't know
he
if
came out of his room, which is up. He wasn't downstairs.
Oh, okay.
He thinks it's too cold down in the basement, which is a beautiful thing. Like,
especially at night.
Man,
I'd sleep down there.
That thing is unbelievable. And sometimes even you have to sleep down there.
What are we laughing about?
I just told a joke in my own head.
Thanks for sharing.
So we went down the Jimmy Butler rabbit hole, and because he came up on TikTok, and I told you Micah calls him Mr. Tryhard.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot all about the homeless story and the family that took him in. Then I listened to the clip that Shane played in the Open, and I want to be his best friend.
I just can't get past his hair, man.
Who cares?
This is my guy.
Why are you so shallow?
I was watching a video.
He could be bald head.
I was watching a video on
Sports
Center yesterday.
Ever cheered for LeBron? That junk is patchy as all get out.
It looked like somebody just came in.
Are you a Kevin Durant fan? His hair sucks.
Just came in with an electric razor right down the middle.
Why? Come on, man.
Poof out both sides. It's like he lost a bet.
Oh, man, that's tough.
He is tough, though.
Jimmy said, listen, I don't waver. I stay in the moment. I'm consistent. My team feeds off of that. I'm like, Jimmy, you're my guy because I know you matter in crunch
And he doesn't
time.
alter his personality.
No, see,
that's what I like.
That type of temperament matters.
There was I think did he start a coffee brand?
I don't know.
I was listening to bits and pieces of the story this morning.
Bacon bits?
And no, just like the story. I wish I had bacon bits though.
Put some of that in the macaroni yesterday.
Fire. But
I have to make some for my graduation.
He doesn't he doesn't alter his ways. Like, I think the question was
like pain?
Yeah.
Pain that alters?
The question that was posed.
Big Robert McCall, guys, you know.
Hey, are you going to give like your teammates, a deal if you win the NBA Finals? And
they're rich. They just go get coffee. Stay for profit.
No, I'm gonna raise my prices.
Yeah.
That's just him.
Listen, when you never had anything,
I think that's what he does.
Yeah, something like that.
Jimmy Butler coffee. Let's find this out.
Jimmy Butler. You're a very good typer.
So growing up, we had to take a class in school.
Growing up in the hood. Growing up in the hood. No,
I don't think that's what they call Baldwin, Missouri.
It's relative, so it could just be anybody's neighborhood. It doesn't have to be hoodish.
I didn't know where you were headed.
All right, burbs.
So you you cover your keyboard with it was like an orange film, like where you couldn't see the keys, and then we had to take typing classes.
You don't get your fingertips on there.
Well, we had to. It's just so that you didn't look down at the keyboard. You had to memorize what it was, and so that's. Ever since, I could just type pretty fast. It's kind of nice. That is the one course in school that has benefited me throughout my entire life in grade school.
Typing?
Better
than writing your name in cursive. Look at my man John's.
Ooh, yeah. Well, yes, because we don't write. Wow. Those are fire.
I didn't know he was in the military.
Man, now he's going to force me to look mine up.
Oh, stop it. Cornhole board people.
Next thing, because we talked about
Oklahoma
Lexington.
Tyler has a buddy that has some cornhole boards that are way sweet, except they're Penn State. because his buddy Ron, he's a big Penn State fan. But on the 4th of July, we play cornhole over there, and unfortunately, Oklahoma Tyler's pretty good.
Do you bring your own bags, Nebraska bags?
No, but I have played enough now to know that I like the feel of some bags and some bags I don't.
So okay,
Coach Frein
got to be a little thick.
His retirement party a couple years ago, and I remember getting dusted in cornhole by our athletic director, none less, and old, and he beat us. Going away, like wasn't even. Dude, one game was like 21-7.
Cancellations or no?
Yes.
Okay, that is insane.
Dude, he was sick.
Mm-hmm.
I
love cornhole.
But then I started asking around the admin team and the establishment. Apparently, Kirkman is really competitive. Like, he's good at those kinds of things.
I was always good at the stupid sports that never got me a college scholarship.
He's who I brought in here a couple times with the other ADs and wanted the VIP beers.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, he turned out to be one of the greatest people I've ever met. I've known him for a while. It's like, again, another Bernie Mac reference. I knew him, but I didn't know him. Like, being around him now, like that would be would be an older guy I could go hang out with.
Yeah.
Like, he's low-key funny too.
Side note, Thomas, before I get to my point, our boy Thomas.
Oh, TK?
That's technically Omaha property right now, DB. You can't take the concrete.
Dude, does he
but he said we used to turn old concrete we took out into gravel. So that could be nice.
Yeah, I don't want dust, because on Twitter, when I tweeted the picture of the guys actually out doing manual labor, somebody on Twitter said that the byproduct or the residue is not good for you. He said it's like asbestos, just not regulated.
Oh, okay.
And remember,
is that why
our guy
they weren't wearing masks?
Was all in it too.
Yeah, they were eating it.
Did you see the curve on his back? I was like, ouch. Like,
well, I thought at one point, because there was one guy out there that knew how to use that saw, the other guy not so much.
Yeah, he was on a struggle bus.
And so I was worried that this could drop and just cut off his foot.
Yeah.
And can you imagine sitting here and just seeing a foot go flying?
No. Again, yesterday.
I mean, if I called fair catch, I'd at least go to the 25-yard line.
Micah talking about he could power wash. I was like, I think you like all your fingers and toes. I'm not putting a little kid behind a power washer, right? But
no.
But that's what that circular saw reminded me of.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you're cutting concrete, I'm pretty sure that'll get bone. Yeah. So I'm good. So what are those guys gonna do today? I think
they're just crushing it up, and then
I started to try to sneak it in park, but I didn't want Musclehead mad at me. I
Can
showed him to you yesterday. With a
can you imagine
t-shirt?
just finding the spot right here in between the cones?
Yeah,
they would
be like, I told you.
So mad. Like, my guess is they're probably just removing it because I think they already poured the concrete, right?
Yeah. Do you think you could drive that little thing that like hammers the concrete down?
I could drive it. I don't know if I'd want to though. Like, that's not like, you know how some people are like, oh, I want to just get behind a wrecking ball.
Shane, is that your girl?
Take out a building.
Who sings Wrecking Ball? Is that Katy Perry?
Miley Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus. Is it Miley?
It's Miley. It's not Hannah Montana. I know.
I would drive that though.
Shane, you
the wrecking thing out there.
There's no way you could get behind. How would you get in?
A ladder?
No, you can get into it and climb up the wheel there. Wouldn't be a problem.
He said
the tracks.
Climb up the wheel.
It's got wheels on
it.
What
is it, like jungle gym?
It could be.
Hey, hold on. Let me just stick my foot into the the tread here.
And that little kid get in there. He's a grown man.
Is that Musclehead or Shane?
Well, no, Musclehead would just pull it towards him. They get in that thing.
We'll set up the show when we come back. Stick around.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
We do it every single day, and we know what we're capable of. You know, the outside individuals don't get the opportunity to see that. And I wish that y'all did, because then you would see that the guys that we have on this team, on this roster, can really play some high-level basketball. And we're going to stay confident because, like I said, we're in the grind every single day. Guys have been out of the lineup all year long. Guys step up, fill in, and do that job. So we're never going to be surprised.
Hey, welcome back. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. We'll be talking NBA Finals with Brian Edwards at 8:45. We'll get the lines. We'll talk about some props.
Cheese with the bagel.
I could use a bagel right now.
Oh, are you a bagel guy?
Big bagel guy. Cinnamon Crunch Bagel from my St. Louis bread company.
No. You're gonna do that. Why don't you just get a donut?
Yeah, I don't know. I like the toasted cinnamon crunch bagel with a little bit of butter, no cream cheese.
I'm 5 cheese,
It'll just
Asiago
melt in your
cheese,
mouth.
or the hash brown bagel. That's it.
Where do you get all from Breadco?
All from
Panera?
Barugers. But most
it.
people
Okay.
do have an Asiago cheese bagel.
I didn't know.
You could get
I've never
that
heard
in
of the
the
other
groceries.
ones.
The 5 cheese? Yeah,
yeah.
they got a 5. The reason I like Bruegger's 5 cheese is because it's super soft. It's like squishy.
And see, that's kind of what I like about the cinnamon crunch bagel, because when you put butter on it instead of the cream cheese, when it melts in there, oh man, does it get soft?
Shane, what in the world would Brian Edwards do with a bagel?
That's a good question.
Would he enjoy it?
I don't know.
It's got to be touchdown.
You gotta use cream cheese.
Eddie Garcia is stopping by next. We'll talk Stanley Cup Finals with him.
The forgotten sport all of a sudden.
It kind of is.
The forgotten sport. Schedule talk dominated yesterday.
Yes, it did.
And the NBA dominated yesterday. And even a little bit of like I felt like and maybe I'm just hearing what I want to hear. I felt like actually college baseball was getting some run yesterday.
Yeah, only because, and I've been seeing a lot of, hey, is there a 4 seed going to make it to Omaha? Like there hasn't been since Stony Brook did in 2012. Like, is a 4 seed going to do it? And because there's some pretty nice 4 seeds in this field, I started to see it pick up there. And then I started to see it pick up more with Lexington. And then I started to see it pick up more just because of the sheer talent that we're about to see on Friday.
Well, I just I'd like to see. So I'm a lot like I'm consistent. The better I'd like to see the better programs. I don't really embrace like a random.
You don't want to see like a Coastal Carolina?
I mean, not particularly. Although that's a good program, just not historic.
Right, and so that's why.
So I don't really.
When they won though, we
I
weren't
don't
supposed to win.
I don't. Nope, not a. Don't want to see Fresno State, Georgia in the finals. I don't want that. So I think as it gets closer to this deal, I'd like to see that trim. But I do understand full well with the COVID years and all these older baseball teams.
Right.
You may get it.
So we dated 2 years: Mississippi, Ole Miss, and Mississippi State.
Yeah, neither were
in
the postseason.
Well, yeah, neither were the crazy ones, right?
No.
So,
both teams were pretty good.
So are you just hoping you get like another Vanderbilt once again?
I don't know. I'd like, I'm a Miami,
you want Wake Forest?
LSU, Carolina, like Stanford. I want to see kind of the story programs. Is that
okay? You want some history?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you there.
I don't really want to see like Dallas Baptist and Campbell.
I would love to see Dallas Baptist here.
I want to see.
Give me one team. Like out of the 8, give me one, maybe 2. You can have 6 of the historic programs, but give me a DBU.
What's that?
Give me an Oral Roberts.
What are you talking about?
Come on.
I don't know.
Yeah, Avery.
I'm not bugging you over that.
Avery, funny enough, goes, hey, you guys are asking for rain, and then we're going to have a rain delay every single day of the CWS.
No, that's okay.
A rain delay?
Especially now that I'm not working. Delay all you want. Is that selfish?
Well, no. Because you'll just go to the game and enjoy it. Or sit around. Do you go downtown at all?
Selfish.
And okay.
I'm usually working.
I was going to say, I doubt that you'd be the one in a bar.
Absolutely not.
You're not going to join the Jello shot team at is that Rocco's?
No, and who's going to drink all the drinks this year?
So you'll always find people ready to drink.
Yeah, I don't know. Like the ringleaders last year on the board are not here.
Arkansas could do it.
Yeah, what Arkansas finish? 3rd or 4th?
Yeah, but even still, like Oklahoma was low, and then when they got to the finals, they were high.
Yeah.
So if you get whoever's here, they're going to drink their weight.
Unless you're Stanford.
Unless you're Stanford, correct? They'll end with 9 again.
Unless
because they'll only show up with 9 fans.
Unless you're the Cardinal. Although they could win it this year, so they should travel.
Yeah, offensively, not as good as last year, but pitching-wise, better than last year. Yeah. Another thing that I saw that was pretty cool in the news, the total no pun intended here, the air-conditioned helmets for LSU football. Like, what do you think about that?
You're doing too much. That's just me. I'm kind of I'm like Walt Kowalski.
Like for somebody that never played, I'm like, okay. I mean, I've been outside when it's 100 degrees.
See, I don't know enough to know how it feels, but I wouldn't want one part of my body
to be cold,
chilled, and another part going through other things, right? Like I don't want to just have a cool head.
Mm-hmm.
And would it be enough to chill like Taylor Martinez? I got chills throughout my body. I don't know if it would be Taylor Martinez either.
But when you try to cool down your body, normally it's like, hey, get a cold rag, put it on your neck, because then it will cool down the rest of your body. So yeah, because you can direct it. Like you can have it on your forehead, you can have it like just anywhere in the head and neck area. So because of that, wouldn't that help it? Who knows?
Would I feel the air, or would it just be cool?
I got chills.
I think you can feel the air.
I know, me too, Taylor.
Because based on the reactions the LSU players were like, oh my God, I can feel it on my forehead right now. And it would have to be putting out air. Otherwise, it would just be like, hey, I just stuck your helmet in the freezer.
Did you listen to Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, address the team?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that sounds like something he would not be for. He's kind of and it's easy for guys that have been there, done that, to go back and tell you how tough you needed to be, because Honey Badger had his fair share of hard times.
Right. And I don't think an AC helmet tells toughness. Like, I mean, mentally you have to fight through it.
That sounds like something a young guy would say.
Do you want to faint?
How have they made it for 90 years playing this game?
But all I'm saying is,
I mean, how in the world have we gotten by for 90 years? I'm not saying there's
statistics like, 50% of football players
faint. But now all of a sudden it's like now all of a sudden it's.
But would you be more focused?
I don't know. I mean, maybe. No, I don't know. I don't know. I'll say I don't know. I think there's something about battling conditions that sharpens focus. So again, my gut reaction would be like, no, but I'm willing to do more research.
I feel like it's a nicety. Like, it's like, I
think that kind of fits your temperament. Because
I'm all about improving the moment.
Yeah.
And so, like, if I'm going to get,
and I'm all about handling whatever happens.
Right.
So it's like, if you could,
makes sense.
I just think it's unnecessary.
Unnecessary, yes. I can get with that.
I just think it's unnecessary.
Which is why settling on nicety is probably the word.
But I also don't have to plan to buy you either. So, I mean, whatever.
Hey, you did play more times than that when it was cold outside.
Yeah, and I mean, and we listen. We had to make the trek to Miami. We played in the dry heat in Tempe.
Right.
So I mean, it's not like that turf didn't touch 100 in Lincoln at times. So I don't know. I think it's secondary, not necessary. But again,
I still think it's a pretty cool invention.
I mean,
whoever thought of it,
always trying to figure out something. Or were you happy with all your schedule talk that you wanted to have happen yesterday? Because that was
it what I wanted to have?
Yes,
or what
yes.
the people
there you
wanted?
Guys, the people, you and the Rock,
you're pulling me in.
The people's champions wanted schedule talk. It does help me too, because I did have somebody ask me yesterday how Illinois affects the broadcasting, and I have a feeling I'll be coaching because we're at Kearney, and they'll be good. I need a fill-in. I wonder if that'll be a deal breaker.
What, needing a fill-in?
Yeah.
I don't know. They'll still take you.
Well, we'll see.
I'm pretty sure on that.
We shall see.
Hey, we'll change gears, talk NHL Stanley Cup final action with Eddie Garcia next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes.
McKewon just got a fresh stick before that drop. Testing it before the face-off. Realized it was broken. Snapped it in half. Got a new stick. Then went back to the face-off. Sir, out in front of chance. Amadio, he scores! Set up by William Karlsson. 6-0 Golden Knights.
For the face-off from center, they'll put the clock to 4.9. The puck is down. The puck rolls over the Panthers line down to our right. The final seconds tick away. This one's over. The Florida Panthers are going down to our right. The final seconds tick away. All right. The final
6-0 Golden Knights.
The final seconds tick away. This one's over. The Florida Panthers are going to the Stanley Cup final. The Panthers are Eastern Conference final. The Panthers. Final. Oh.
Then went back to the faceoff. Sir, out in front of chance. Amadio, he scores! Set up by William Karlsson. 6-0 Golden Knights.
The final seconds tick away. This one's over. The Florida Panthers are going to the Stanley Cup final.
Then went back to the faceoff. Sir, out in front of chance. Amadio, he scores!
Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Then went back to the faceoff. Sir, out in front of chance. Amadio, he scores! Set up by William Karlsson. 6-0 Golden Knights.
The final seconds tick away. This one's over. The Florida Panthers are going to the Stanley Cup final.
History will be made, and it all starts tomorrow.
Yeah, I know.
Is it the NBA Finals are tonight, right?
It feels like it snuck up on us.
Stanley Cup Finals are tomorrow.
That would be correct.
That's how we're. I knew it was one or the other. Welcome back, Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. He's Damon Benning. I'm Andrew Rogers. Wherever you find us here in town, 590 ESPN Radio in Omaha, live on Twitter, live on YouTube, and we are live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. Let's go to our first guest of the morning, Eddie Garcia, Fox Sports Radio Network update anchor at Eddie on Fox on Twitter. Eddie, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How are we?
We're good, Eddie. I know this is just how you drew it up, so you got to be pretty pumped. Like you're like a regular Nostradamus.
I would say I'm the opposite of that.
As are all of us, right? It's like what just happened?
That's right. I am not alone, so I got good company.
So remember when we thought the Panthers at once upon a time had shaky goaltending? Do you remember those days? That was fun.
Well, yeah, that was the regular season, and this is the playoffs, and things can change dramatically in the playoffs.
Eddie, is Sergei back, though? Like, are we prepared to make the claim that Sergei Bobrovsky is back?
Well, he's back for now. I wouldn't, guarantee he's going to be this again the rest of his career, but for now, he's recaptured his mojo. He's won a couple of Vezina trophies in his past, but those have been in the past. We didn't really see this Sergei Bobrovsky for Florida during the regular season. And so good for him. He didn't start the playoffs as the starter. There were some issues as far as illness, but he's gotten healthy, gotten a little bit refreshed maybe, and now is carrying it for Florida.
Hey, this is kind of fun because we've been saying this all playoffs and basically all season because of how he plays. Guys like Tkachuk are relentless. They're constantly putting pressure on you. They're just like gnats, grinding, digging pucks out of the board. But they're playing a franchise that's used to winning. So they don't mind when it's not going their way. How much do these styles or these teams' temperaments make for a good matchup?
Well, anytime you get to this point, you've got two teams that are very confident. Vegas' success in their short time in the league has been ridiculous, and has,
to say the least,
has made their fan base pretty obnoxious and has made them a team that's easy to root against. But honestly, I can't blame their fans. If you had a team and you'd gone deep into the playoffs 4 of the 6 years, you got to the final your first year, you're back again. How can you not be obnoxious? I think I'd probably be pretty obnoxious too, but there's a lot of confidence behind it. They've been an organization that from the get-go has said look, every organization says we're in it to win championships, but lots of times it's lip service. It's not with them. They make bold moves. They go out and get big name players. They're not worried about the future. They're worried about now and this year. And it's maybe it fits the style of Vegas, going all in to win, that kind of thing. But they're obviously very talented. The one concern I have with them is net. But they've had a rotating cast of characters in goal, and they've made it work all year long. So they're a team that's really sound defensively, but they've got some pretty good, exciting players up front as well. Guys like Mark Stone, Jack Eichel coming over is a big story for them.
The newfound meeting expectations, Jack Eichel. Isn't that something?
Yeah, and if you're Buffalo, you look back and I know that, they made a trade that maybe in the long run will work out. They got some guys that really want to be there. And, there was some question whether even before the neck issue, if Jack Eichel really wanted to be there. But it's certainly, you look back and you think, well, maybe we should have let him have the surgery he wanted so he'd still be here. But no, it's been a great redemption story for him. He's always been, the step brother to Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
But in the end, if he wins the cup, McDavid's still looking for his, so he'll have the last laugh. And Florida is gritty, gutty. We've talked about them, shouldn't even be in the playoffs if the Pittsburgh Penguins win a couple of games. And yet they get in, and, this team that won the President's Trophy a year ago had some major changes in the offseason because they didn't perform well in the playoffs and haven't performed well in the playoffs for most of their history. and now suddenly it's all come together, and they're a Cinderella story, but I don't think it's like the Miami Heat in the NBA. I think the Heat are decidedly underdogs against Denver. That's not the case for Florida. I think this is a pretty even matchup, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Panthers pull it off.
Yeah, it's hard to pick against the Panthers, winning 11 of their last 12, and everybody's been counting them out every series, so it's almost like you just have to buy into the Panthers hype at this point. You know, they knock off the best team in the NHL. Do you think people have learned their lesson not to pick against the Panthers?
Well, I mean, probably not.
At least you're honest.
But I think they're okay with that. I think they don't mind that. And you guys know about this in sports. You hear these ridiculous statements after teams win championships. No one thought we could do it. No one thought we could do it. And we're like, wait a minute. No, there's plenty of people thought you could do it. But Florida is a legitimate example of a team that if they win it all, when it's all said and done, they can say, no one thought we could do this but us, and they're 100% right.
So, Eddie, let me ask you this. We know special teams is super important in hockey when it actually happens. But if they can stay out of the send bin and play with some discipline, who has to win the 5-on-5 matchup in order to give them the better chance to win, in your opinion?
I would go with Vegas because I do think Florida has some better special teams than Vegas does, but I would say Vegas has to win the 5-on-5 battle to even things out because Florida's going to get their opportunities on the power play, and they've come up big in some key moments this postseason on their power play. So I'd say Vegas needs to be better 5-on-5.
Eddie, you brought up a Cinderella run for the Panthers, coming in with momentum, but then also having a break that keeps them a little bit more loose. Would you compare them at all to that 2018 Vegas team, the team that wasn't supposed to be there and is there, or are the Panthers established enough with their recent history of being good that comparison, it just isn't there?
No, they're a shock. They're a surprise to be here. I mean, we looked at the Eastern Conference all year and we thought, man, there are some unbelievable teams here, and none of them are around anymore. They didn't even make the conference finals. Boston, Toronto. I mean, Tampa Bay had obviously been 3 years in a row. I thought New Jersey maybe was a chance to be the Cinderella team. Not Florida. No, I thought they were done in the first round, and then they were down 3-1 to Boston, and I already penciled in. Well, not even penciled. I put it in ink. I put Boston in the next round. And they came back with it. That's one thing, you talk about Cinderella. It's one thing if a team just gets hot and starts to get on a run, but, maybe doesn't face any adversity. But they have. Florida was down 3-1 in the first round. So it's not like it's just been, we got hot at the right time. They had to, pull out 3 straight wins against the best team in the regular season. So they are battle tested. And even though they're an 8 seed and they're going up against a 1 seed, all the teams they've beaten are at least as good, if not better, than Vegas. So they've gone through great teams to get here. So this is not a typical 1-8 kind of a matchup. I think Florida is, like I said, they're right there, if not even maybe better than Vegas. It doesn't mean Vegas can't win. It just means that Florida has seen teams as good as Vegas all the way to where they are now.
Eddie, let me go global here with you before we get you out of here, because it's interesting that they had odds to get another NHL team, and I don't think that's going to happen because they weren't the favorite. But let's go north of the border to Toronto. Obviously, Shanahan makes the move. Dubas had the contract. He's not coming back. They make the move with Brad. Is there an additional move that the Leafs have to make, breaking up those 4 horsemen, or do you like, just changing addresses, going from Calgary to Toronto, that you think will be enough to shake that team up?
I mean, I like the hire a lot. I think Brad Treliving did a great job in Calgary with a terrible circumstances this offseason. Now, the Huberdeau trade didn't work out, but he had to move Matthew Tkachuk. You can't let a guy like that walk for nothing. So I think the moves he made in Calgary were good. I think the circumstances there, I think Calgary screwed that up. He should still be there. They should have fired Daryl Sutter and let Brad Treliving make the coaching change, but they did. So I think Toronto has fallen up with this move, frankly. But that said, that Big Four had their chance this year.
Yep.
It was laid out perfectly for them. They didn't have to face Boston. They didn't have to face Tampa Bay. This was their chance to get it done. For me, I'm moving one of those guys. I'm changing things up. I'm not just coming back with the same, players and rolling the dice again. So we'll see. Like, Brad Treliving has not been afraid to make major changes. Now, he kind of was forced to do it in Calgary, but he's not afraid to do it. He's done it before. So if I'm him, I'm going to make a change. I'm going to trade a Nylander. I'm going to trade a Marner. I'm going to make a move and change things up.
Eddie, we appreciate it, man. Thanks for stopping by and talking Stanley Cup
stuff.
Playoff hockey with us. Enjoy the finals.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Thanks, Betty.
That is at Eddie on Fox. Toss him a follow on Twitter. Now, when we come back, there are, how do I put this?
Well, I don't know.
Two big names coming back. 2 X Factors. How about that? 2 X Factors that we'll touch on.
Good day for the locals.
Especially for the J-Sker fans, right?
Kind of as expected, but I'm still excited.
More on one, less on the other.
Right,
we'll talk more on that next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Hey, top of the hour here on Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. We will get into the returnees of Trey Alexander and Keisei Tominaga. But before we get there, I'm going back to Twitter. And I like to follow up on things, and I like when people interact with things that we talk about on the show. And when we touched on the helmets, the AC and the helmets, and you were talking about mental toughness, like it's battling through the conditions as a player. And I'm all for the old school approach. I would stand by the old school approach before I stand by some of the new things that I see in society. But when I touched on it, it was just meant to say, hey guys, it's a cool thing. It's a cool improvement to what's already there. But one of the comments was that met with a little pushback, Drew Down? Well, one of the comments that I saw was, I'll just read the line, how much are they going to be coddled? And that's not the word I would use when I'm talking about AC in the helmets. Yeah. If you ask any of the players that are wearing those things at LSU, I would venture to say that 97 to 98% of the players are like, this is sweet. This is cool. Because the young generation likes new things, right? They like the new way of they want to be first to have something. That's the society that we were brought up in. So by seeing that and being the first to do it. By we, you mean I'm a part of the younger generation. I got you. I want the newest iPhone. I want the newest MacBook. I want to be the first one to get a PS5. You want the new thing. Okay. So that's what you're going to get excited about. And that's the whole point of what I was saying. Hey, this is cool, which is why without me even giving my point, I said, what do you think about this? Yeah. And that's just, listen, I just think that's I hate to even use the term because Numbnuts over there likes to play that stupid clip, but it is where different worlds collide, right? It's collide. It's I could barely even spit that out. Unbelievable. Anyway, he just gotta ignore this little dude. He's mad because little pocket, little strong arm out there is looking down on him. I don't know, man. Don't know. It's just I just think it's a generational mindset, right? Because you're kind of right. I think if something works, it's good enough, right? That's just how I was raised, and so I'm a little bit of a product of my environment, as are you. So it's hard for me to sit here and say my way is better. It's just what I know. I think the safest way for me to say that without passing judgment was for me to say exactly what I thought. It's unnecessary. Doesn't mean it doesn't have its advantages. I'm sure it does, right? I just don't see it as necessary. Well, there's plenty of other things that you could be doing to protect a football player outside of putting AC in a helmet. I get that. I get that. And listen, and they should be good. They got a fantastic coach who is typically selling toughness. I think his teams at Cincinnati were tough. I think his teams at Notre Dame were tough. I think his team at LSU will be tough, right? They'll be right there in the hunt. So, listen, coaching is the great equalizer. So as long as Kelly wants to play a certain way and continue to do what he does, do I think
air conditioning in your helmets is the difference between winning and losing.
No.
I just think it was extremely unnecessary.
But it's not going to change mental toughness for me.
I see that's the part I'm not comfortable speaking on, because I think battling elements is part of it. Now, listen, I'll tell you what they're saying, and I wouldn't have a dog in the hunt or a dog in the fight. It would be, listen, man, we're playing in these conditions, the humidity, an SEC Saturday is different. They can obviously play night games in November, unlike the Big Ten East. But anyway, so maybe they're looking for an advantage on those given nights. Okay, if you think that gives you an advantage, cool. If there's a condition that you don't have to battle that you normally would, okay.
Right. So the way I think about this too, in a lot of ways, is a new invention, right? Because it is a new thing. When Scrub Daddy came out,
who?
Scrub Daddy, like the little smiley face.
I have no idea what that is.
What's it? It's like a
dish. Scrub Daddy. That's what I think
of what.
That's what I would call somebody that's like snarky or that I don't like.
So
it's like your typical Scrub Daddy.
So it's what you clean dishes with, right?
Oh, that looks like the little smiley fries that Micah used to eat.
The potatoes in
we used
grade
to get
school.
those at
What
was the Mexican restaurant? My man, R.I.P. Rick Fox used to run Julio's.
Right.
They used to have the smiley fries.
What I'm getting at is that comes out, but there are already other less impressive or OG, we'll say, scrubbers.
I seasoned my skillet with the little silver thing. It's pretty old school and
right.
archaic. I'm sure there's a better way to do than when something's not going to coil up and
right. So that's kind of what I think about when I see AC helmets. I'm like, it's a new thing, a part of something that's old that is also there to provide. You said advantage. I think that's good, but just an improvement on what's already or to the conditions that they're in.
Yeah.
I
mean, I'm not mad about misters on the sideline. I mean, is AC necessary? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it.
They're typically.
Oh, you don't have jokes right now?
No, I don't have jokes, but there typically is
like there's water coolers, right? But now everybody uses the guns, they use the big tank, and you get the everybody has their own spout essentially. Everything is going to be new. So this could end up being the first case.
I've never seen Scrub Daddy. This is a demeaning term that I would use to call people. Like, you scrub. Come on, man. Scrub Daddy. That's what I would say.
But this is going to start off as one team, and then it's going to start off, or then it's going to bleed into 10 other teams, and then it's going to bleed into 20 other teams, and it's going to become a norm. And then no one's going to be saying anything until the next new thing comes out. And we're talking about, how we're taking away, from old to new.
But we've seen pushback before when it comes to technology in sports, like in NASCAR, when they went to all the safety stuff, the harnesses and all that stuff. Some drivers didn't want it. We've seen it in NASCAR or in the NHL when they went to the face guards or to the plastic visors, and there were players that had to be grandfathered in that didn't want to have that. So, I mean, we've seen pushback before when it comes to technology.
Oh, Shane Schillerberg with a hot take. But that's actually true, though. I'm with you. I'm air dapping you from over here. Kind of like you did when they said Kisei Tominaga, who had a pretty cool video. And I try not to get into those, but the video was pretty cool.
With the Pacers?
Yeah, it was just
a sit-down interview. You're like, oh, okay. Maybe NBA is in his cards at some point. He's the one that I would say I wasn't surprised that he's back.
See, I'm not surprised on either. But I talked to you off air. I thought the whole time, the only one that they were going to lose was Kaluma. And it was for two reasons. Number one, I had a little insight into how Kalk thinks.
Right.
And combing through roster spots. And so I knew he was calculated.
That one made sense.
Okay. I knew he was very, very calculated.
It's a great way to describe him.
With Trey, the reason it didn't surprise me is because he's a 6'3" guard.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to have to handle the ball in the NBA. It's hard to make a living as a 6'3" wing in the NBA without an elite skill.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured, You couple that, and I thought this from the jump, even before I was, and I would send you Jonathan Giovanni's draft reports, and
right.
I watched the NBA combines, and I would send you updates on the box scores and stuff. So I was kind of paying attention, and I'm like, they're going to want him to handle the ball. I just don't think he's a one in the NBA yet. Now, I'm not saying he's going to learn that in the year, but he's going to have every opportunity with the guys that he's playing with.
Mm-hmm.
To develop those skills, because remember his brilliance when he played without Nembhard 2 years ago on their then historic run. And I'm telling you, and you know this because we talk a lot. Creighton has one of the best NIL deals in the country.
He went for guaranteed money, and he wasn't getting guaranteed money in the first round of the NBA draft.
They have the sweet. And that's what NIL should be set up to do. Nebraska's going through it right now. They're still kind of working it out, but they need NIL in the retention and acquisition arena. And they need everyday cost of living NIL. So I don't know if there's a way where the Big Red Collective and 1890 could coexist. One handles this, one handles this, one handles the basic day-to-day, and the other does acquisition and retention. That's ideal. But I mean, adults in the room got to be adults. And so I know Nebraska's figuring that out, but that's how NIL should work. You want the type of culture and environment that makes it very, very difficult to leave. And all things being equal, people choose to stay. That's
right.
That's why companies have ping pong and video games, and
You're talking about the lounge in Nebraska football.
That's
ping pong video games.
How about that thing? So full disclosure, when we're walking, and I go, can you believe this is kind of outdated? And you're like, no.
Yeah, I said, I don't know if I've walked through something so nice.
Seriously. I mean, it will be bigger and better than that.
Futuristic.
Bigger and better than that. I mean, LSU set the standard a couple years ago at their facility. And I remember reading about their design and looking at all their work. And I'm like, my initial reaction was, man, I'm trying to get out of that place, especially by the time I was a redshirt sophomore or a junior. I did not want to be at the stadium when we weren't working, right? I go to school there. I'd just gotten off a study table. We had 2 days. I want to get home. So what does LSU try to do? Make it as much like home as possible. Beds, barbershop, the
whole shebang.
The chambers, So I kind of
they've made it a place that you wouldn't want to leave.
Yeah. So we see this facility arms race. So what does Nebraska do with their new facility? It is self-containing. They're probably looking for barbers as we speak, right? They're trying to make it as self-containing as possible. And I think that's how NIL should work. So Tominaga, you figure out international NIL and how to pay international athletes, which a lot of smart people figured that out. He's not getting drafted. So the only other thing was, how does this experience compare to me going overseas and playing where I could command X amount of dollars? And we don't even know what that is. We speculated, right? But with Trey, we kind of know. We know G League salaries. We know 10 days. We know 2 ways. And I think I have a general sense on what the day-to-day is at Creighton. And he moves to the top of the pecking order.
Right.
Because, I mean, there's the baseline. Then there's probably the 1 or 2. And then there are the non-negotiables. So he automatically slid into the catbird seat. So why wouldn't you? And you get to do everything. You get your 18 shots a game. You get to handle the ball. You're guarding the best defenders. You're constant, and you're gonna have a top 5 pro. Okay,
top 10.
And be safe.
Yeah, but they could exceed that.
See, on paper, and I'm not afraid to say this, hot take, they're better than they were a year ago.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I'm not discounting Nimhart. Like I think Nimhart
or Kaluma.
I like Art, and I think he's getting a bad. I think we're very dismissive.
But he helped the national look of, hey, they're going to be a top 10
wasn't
program.
Playing the way that
I
think we envisioned him playing.
No.
At this
Every
stage.
time he put the ball on the ground, we were holding our breath.
I told you about the guy sitting behind me. They would get so mad. Jumbo. I was like, oh my God, this dude is losing his mind. But anyway, so but it was a really, I mean, look at all the good teams. Arizona got better. Carolina got better. Duke is going to be, how about, did anybody think Popowski was coming back? I mean, that flew under the radar a couple months ago, and he's like, I'm good. So like there are some really good it will be extremely top heavy unless you're Kentucky in college basketball. So I was reluctant to say top 5 with Creighton, even though I like this roster better than last year's roster. Now, it's darn near impossible to say, oh, you'll do better than the Elite 8. Right? Like
that's been done before yet.
That's difficult.
Right.
But the roster on paper, in my opinion, and the most important thing, as long as Kalk and Trey are still not bigger than the college game and Coach Mack and that staff, they'll be fine. I actually like, and this is without D-Walk and Griesel, I kind of like Nebraska's roster a little bit better too. And I was a huge Griesel guy, but I actually think they'll have more potentially could play with a more traditional point guard. You get another proven scorer back. You've got a stretch 4. You got a guy coming in from Charlotte that I think is vastly underappreciated in terms of his ability to score. Again,
and your stretch 4, going back to that point, has been everywhere.
And I challenge you to go back and read Padilla's. Basically, it was a human download
breakdown on
sure. his scoring ability and how he gets buckets. Now, will it transition in conference? I will see. But man, with Tshiebwe and Livingston staying in the draft for Kentucky, and we'll see what happens with Reeves. Almost everybody
else feel too good if you're a Kentucky fan right now.
Almost everybody else, from a blue blood standpoint, feels pretty good. Like, I mean,
UConn maybe not so much. Like,
I don't know.
They're returning.
They were young.
Yeah, they're returning a lot of young guys, but you also lost some pieces.
Yeah. So, I don't. That's a great debate, right? It's not that great. It's kind of an old take, but when I say blue bloods, you know what didn't come to mind? UConn.
Really?
But I think I called them the LSU of college.
Okay.
The LSU football of college basketball, the kind of the Johnny-come-latelys. Because remember, LSU wasn't really relevant until mid-'80s, early 90s. Kind of breaking on the scene. That's not very long, but it's current history, which is kind of how I feel about UConn.
Okay. I can vibe with that. Now, you mentioned one thing about Trey, and I'm gonna date you back about 12 minutes now.
Okay.
About when you brought up how 6'3" guard, not really sure how that fits in the NBA. What would you say is like the best part of Marcus Smart's game?
Defensively, he is a stopper.
Right. And I think that's how Trey makes his way into the league next year.
Yeah. So there's quite the body type disparity for me to make that comp.
Definitely.
Smart's
you got to put some weight.
Thick.
You got to put some weight on.
Meaty.
But if you're talking about a guy that likes to guard the best player on the floor, that's Trey Alexander. Yeah. And he's one of those two-way guys where, he could be point guard, he could be a shooting guard, but no matter what on defense, you're putting him up against the best player, best guard at least, the best player on the floor. And so that's why I think the disparity between the NBA and college isn't as big as people think with Trey, because he's the type of guy that doesn't need doesn't need babysitting.
Yeah.
He knows his role. He knows what he needs to do. He excelled at it when he went to the combine and still made the mature decision of, hey, it's going to be better for me to go back to Creighton, compete for a national title, make some money versus taking the G League route and making it hard on myself.
Yeah. So it's crazy too, because I said it was, and I was specific. I said, it's a good day for locals. If you're talking basketball, that is the antithesis of what happened with Bovey hitting the transfer portal, which you and I talked about yesterday. And I said right away, I was like, you know what? I'm not mad at him. He gave Omaha everything and then some.
Right. It's his time too.
Go get paid.
It's his time.
It's how I felt about.
And for those in Omaha that
Akinwole, and it didn't necessarily work out for him leaving Omaha when he did, but I felt like Io gave Omaha everything he could. Like, okay, man, like, go test the market.
Right.
Go do what you
we're talking about a guy that's
you talking about Bovey?
Yeah, I mean, he's first off, he's a top 50-ish
40.
Now he's top 40 player. This is somebody that's going in the second, third round.
And see what's out there.
It's his time. It's his time for that. Side note to a point that you made.
Is it weird to kind of like Nebraska's roster better?
No, because that's kind of what I was going to get to is I think another reason why you bring that up is because you know what you're getting out of Casey this year, and it's not as alarming when you lose two pillars on your team.
And Walker and Greasel.
And Walker and Greasel. You know that, hey, Casey, I mean, he, let's just say, like a mushroom in Super Mario, he grew off the confidence of the crowd. Like anytime he would have the ball in his hands, he wasn't afraid to fire it. Nobody knew that going into last season. Nobody knew that he had that switch in his brain, that he could just shoot it, be lights out, and feed off of what the crowd was giving him, the energy that was in that building. And so now that you know you have that, plus you add the additions, as you said, Charlotte, you're stretchy 4, and then some with this team.
You get another year of Blaze. You hope Lawrence can continue to develop. And I'm not sure what you're going to get from Lloyd Jr., which, by the way,
I'm interested to see Lawrence's development.
Jacob is watching them this morning or yesterday. But anyway, I get Jacob at 12. But the Lloyd development is interesting. Like again, and a healthy Gary. So, I mean, it's not doom and gloom, although I do think the Big Ten will be pretty good.
You're going to just have to see how this team gels.
Michigan State.
Ooh. Yeah. Well, my thing is, and until we
speaking of the Blue Bloods,
until we know, right? Until we know how this Nebraska team plays all 5 together, it's too hard for me to say, like, okay, stamp it in. This team's already better. Did they make improvements? Yes. Did they fill holes nicely? Yes.
It just seems like the type of team that will play the way we think Coach Hoiberg likes to coach. But remember, he flipped that roster, and guys like Coach Howard, and it was pretty underappreciated. Like, they turned into a defensive-minded team. So
thank you, guys.
So hopefully that's still embedded. You know, because you played more than half the season without Bandamel and was your defensive stopper, and they had to evolve again. So, I mean, maybe that culture's in place. Like, they still have that grindy, those greasy, I always say greasy, grimy, go for guts. But, you know, with that staff, like, that's how they want to coach. And now they have some more versatility on offense. I don't know, like, I kind of like the roster better today than I did a year ago.
And then just one final note on.
Because remember, a year ago, I didn't even know when Derek Walker was going to be
playing
at the beginning of the season.
That's a really good point. And one final note on Creighton. What I really like about Trey coming back, too, is it allows them to be versatile with the point guard position.
Oh, yeah.
You could either give it to Trey, you could give it to Ashworth, you could have either walk down the ball.
Baylor Shireman can handle the ball.
Baylor Shireman can handle the ball.
They got options.
Plenty of it.
And they can have versatility defensively, too. You still got rim protection.
Coming up, Sam McKewon, stick around. Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Hey, welcome back. Let's get right to it. Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Sam McKewon in with us now, sports editor at the Omaha World Herald at SW McKewon, OWH on Twitter. Sam, good morning. Thanks for joining us on Thursday this week.
Had to have it, Sam. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey,
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning to you. You know, June means camp month, right? So how important is it to see these coaches kind of stick to their strengths during camp month and going to the spots that they're familiar with, Texas, the Northeast, and then back home?
I think, satellite camps aren't quite what they were, 7-8 years ago when Jim Harbaugh got there and kind of
kind of set everything on fire. I think the transfer portal changed that to some degree. So, you know, I mean, I think it's smart to go to some certain spots. They've got 2 spots in Texas. One is at a small university in between Houston and College Station that's technically attached to Baylor. They'll go there, and then they'll go to Houston Christian. You know, they're going to see some really good, talented players in both of those areas. And then they've got the one in the Northeast. You know, I mean, I think they'll do what they can. Obviously, you know, the Northeast is still an under-recruited area. You've got some good football players up there that don't necessarily get a ton of attention and may end up, you know, at Syracuse or Rutgers or Boston College or something like that. You might be able to get one of those guys out of there. And so I think, you know, that makes sense to go on up there. Again, the satellite camp isn't quite what it used to be. But it, you know, I think in certain spots it can be helpful to you. And Nebraska did get a couple good players from satellite camps over the years.
Decap. Hey, so
yeah.
we used to call DiCaprio Budo the satellite camp kid. Hey, so Sam, let me ask you something. And full disclosure, some of it is just me being picky, and some of it is I've kind of changed my tune now that I've thought about it. I didn't love the initial camp tweet, like, "Hey, you don't have to be invited, just come," right? Like it's all encompassing. I was like, that doesn't seem very personal, Bull. But then I thought about it a couple days later, and I was like, well, in most states, kids don't wait for invites. They just want to come. How should I have reconciled that in my head? The latter, the more mature thought, or the initial kind of be a baby, I took umbrage with it?
Well, yeah, like
you're like, yeah, go be a baby. I get it. That's what I want you to. No, I'm kidding, Sam. I'm just serious. Like, what was your honest takeaway? Did you think deeper than, well, they all come anyway in other states, or should I have, or did you think immediately the personal touch of being in Nebraska?
Well, I think what they probably meant was your second interpretation, in that, you know, you don't have to like be officially on Nebraska's radar, and they may not know everybody, even though Ed Foley went to pretty much every place he could. They may not know everyone, and you know, they certainly may not know everyone in, you know, rural northern Kansas, for example. And there's usually a good football player or two in northern Kansas that goes to K-State that Nebraska probably would have liked having. So, you know, I mean, I think there's some of just, hey, you know, we don't know who everybody is yet. If you want to come to our camp, just come to our camp. You don't have to get a special invitation down here to show up. And one thing I do believe is that if a guy shows up at camp and he impresses them, they will not necessarily be like, well, you know, what's his offer list? Or
good. Yep, that's right. I agree.
They will allow themselves to be impressed by a camp attendee who also then has a good camp. So I think that's something
that's a fantastic point.
They're pretty objective that way.
And I think they trust themselves, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's funny you say, yeah, that's probably a more salient point than the one I was trying to make, because I go back and I think about it in its totality. What he said a couple weeks ago with regards to Rizak, when he said this won't happen to us again. We will be camping. We will have guys on campus as 9th and 10th graders. Nobody will fly under the radar again. I am not going to rely on leftover notes ever again.
Right. I think that's probably his framework. I think one of the challenges they're going to have is if they're serious about, you know, limiting the size of the class. And I don't know that they are. I mean, I've just kind of heard those rumblings. Well, they're going to be between, you know, 20 and 25. And I'm like, oh, really? Well, okay. You're going to have, I won't be surprised if they've got 35 guys, that want to come here, and they're going to have to make some hard decisions if they're going to be a class that's 20 or 21, and that's the ongoing challenge of the portal versus high school versus urgency kind of stuff. Like, you have to decide, how urgent do we need to be to change our current situation? Well, I can tell you right now that even if you add Danny Kalen next year, they're going to have to look in the portal for a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They just are, because they're not going to be able to rely on Chubba and Harburg staying around. Like, you don't know, so you're going to have to look in the portal for a quarterback. Probably going to have to go to the portal for receivers, unless you feel like these guys are all ready to go. And so, like, they're going to have to balance I don't have a lot of critiques, but one critique I had is first class was a little big, because you brought in all these guys, and now all of a sudden you're going to know a bunch of players a lot better than you did last year. And are you going to limit your spots? And if you limit your spots, then you limit your portal, your portal take. So, like, they're going to have to navigate that, because I think they're going to find that they have more guys than spots that they want to add to their team.
So, you know what I think they did? I think that's why he kept the portal numbers down this year, unless you were a guy like Knack, who was a 4 to play 4, which was like getting a high school guy. Because I think you're right. I don't think he wanted to be married to the numbers. But the other thing, Sam, is I think they think they'll have their NIL in such a place where they can negotiate numbers. Does that make sense?
Sure.
I'm not sure, but I know that they're working hard behind the scenes to really tighten up what the NIL looks like.
Right. I understand that. I guess what I would say is, even if you're able to add players and, hide them as non-scholarship players with NIL, there comes a point of, like, you got too many scholarship guys, or quote unquote scholarship guys, and guys just start leaving. Programs are having to find where that sweet spot is, and it's going to be challenging. I think that the best way to build a program is still going to be through high school recruits, through a cohort of players who grow up together for 3 or 4 years and grow together. Unfortunately, under Frost, they really never had a class that was willing to do that. The 2018 class fell apart immediately, and the 2019 class, some of them stayed, some of them left. And 2020, that was a mess. That was a mess. And so, they never quite had that cohort of players, and now that they've got to find a way to keep this cohort, the 2023 cohort, together as much as possible. But that means playing guys that might not be ready, and it's also a large class. That's why there's an argument to be made for having a small first class. 18 guys, and they all kind of stick around. And you're not taking a bunch of flyers, so you have to replace. But they didn't do that. They went the opposite direction. They signed a lot of receivers. They signed a lot of defensive backs.
They rebuilt the O-line and D-line, though, kind of on the fly, Sam. You know what I mean? Like that. Yeah. So I think that's the give and take, right? I'm just thinking out loud.
No, it is. I mean, now I think the offensive, like, you can always count on in-state kids to generally stick around, even if they don't play a lot. So the offensive line class, I think, will stick together, and I think that's going to be effective. I think they like the defensive linemen that they signed, all that stuff. So yeah, like, I think, there's some things about their class that are likable, and we'll see what they do this weekend.
Sam, we appreciate your time today. Thanks for changing your schedule around to fit us in. We always appreciate having you on the show. Take care. Sam,
appreciate it, Sam.
Ultimately what I think, I wanted to butt in with something, but ultimately what I think adds to both of the points you guys are making is just this staff is intentional about everything they do.
Yeah, I saw you kind of. I'm curious to see what you were thinking, because you're like, I want to know.
Well, we got to hold, because Brian Edwards is next, and then Michael Bruntz. Stick around.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Now, Vegas insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
Were they using the cream cheese to butter the bagel?
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
Always enjoy talking to Brian Edwards on a Thursday. We get to get our sports betting game going. And so we welcome him in now. Brian Edwards, MajorWager.com, BrianEdwardsSports.com, at Vegas B. Edwards on Twitter. B, good morning. What's up, man?
What's happening, gentlemen?
How you doing, B?
Doing well.
Did you get a haircut?
Last like a week ago today, I think.
Yeah, that's I forgot to forewarn you, B. That's one thing about Andrew. He is very
observant.
All right.
Well,
sometimes I talk about my cologne, my shoes, my hoodie. Like he's an observant guy.
Well, here's too much info. I haven't showered yet today, so it probably is all kind of out of place and whatnot. So.
Well, you and Andrew would get along.
What do you mean? I showered this morning.
You turned over a new leaf?
Take a smell.
That a boy.
You don't smell my arm? You're like, I'll just fist bump you.
Pass. Hard pass.
Oh, B, are you one of those people that are like buying into the no wash your hair type of thing, or not changing over your towel at more than
celebs?
once a week?
What?
Like, you know, like there, I saw something the other day of a guy that said, hey, my dermatologist said you should never wash your hair. And I just think that's absolutely disgusting.
Whoa. Yeah, no, I wash my hair every day.
Hey, good for you. Good for you.
Right?
Good job. Hey, speaking of wash, should we wash our hands of this notion that the Miami Heat are plus 370, 380 series price? I mean, I saw where the Nuggets were like 4-1 right now. It seems there's no value there for a Nuggets backer. Like, it seems like extortion.
Yeah, I've still got I bought a Heat 16-1. Maybe when they were up 2 or 3-1 on Milwaukee, or maybe it was early in the Knicks series. I'm not sure, but I've got a 16-1 ticket, so I'm not interested. But I mean, it's definitely on the series price. It's definitely the Heat or pass. I lean Denver to win the series, but certainly not. I don't think they should be a minus 500 favorite at all.
Man, good on you. 16-1 ticket. Hold on to that bad boy and frame it. But the Heat plus 9 tonight for you. Easy money, or
seems like it.
I don't know. The Nuggets are well rested. They're at home. They dominate at home. Jokic is going to be hard to stop, but plus 9 seems like a fairly easy. I don't want to say lock play.
It's too rich for me. I got to go Heat plus 9. So they've only been underdogs of 7.5 points or more 10 times this year. They're 8-2 against the spread in those games. Their last 16 as an underdog, the Heat are 13-3 against the spread with 11 outright wins. And their 10 road games in the playoffs, they're 7-3 against the spread, 6-4 straight up. The Nuggets are well rested, 9 days off. And I think that's a good thing in the long run for the whole series. I don't know that it's a good thing for game 1. Are they a little rusty? And they were hot as a firecracker. They swept the Lakers. Do you really want a long break after that? So, I mean, but then at the same time, the flip side is the altitude is a real thing. And how gassed are the Heat from a 7-game series? But I would argue, they've been playing every other day. They've now had 2 days off, and it was a game 7, but it wasn't like it was some overly emotional game 7. I mean, it was a lopsided pimp slap, wasn't it?
Yeah. 9. It just, and I get it, right? And I think a lot of what Vegas backers are thinking is, yeah, there's the rest versus rust thing, but also Jokic has killed the Heat. Yeah. When they've played. Now, it's hard to go back to last year and the year before, but I mean, Adebayo is still there, and it's a tough matchup for him because of his size. But I think that has a lot to do with it, right? History.
Yeah. So on the covers.com matchups, it only goes back the last 10 head-to-head meetings. So I didn't want to investigate any further, but the Nuggets have won 9 of the last 10, but both games are close this year, a 5-point game and a 4-point game. And if, I'm not a huge guy getting into the prop market, but I'm not against Jokic over 27.5 points. I don't even know if, or at least on my account, I don't think his rebounds and assists were available yesterday. So I'm not sure what they are, but I wouldn't be against any of his overs, but I don't want to dip into that market too much. I want to just ride with my Heat. I did put a little baby play on Jokic over 27.5 points yesterday, though.
I'm happy that when you tossed out things that you'd like to touch on today, you brought up the NFL, because even yesterday, DB and I were going back and forth about we were really deep in the running back rabbit hole of statistics of yards per game and how many players in NFL history have averaged over 100 yards per game, which, spoiler alert.
Hold that thought. Hey, Brian, how many running backs in NFL history have averaged 100 yards per game or more?
3.
Just one. Who was it?
Oh, Jim Brown?
Oh, my goodness. Well done. And why do you think Jim Brown? Or why'd you go with him?
Well, I mean, obviously he was before my time, but and rest in peace. What was that, last week?
Yeah.
But I've always been told he's the greatest running back ever and the greatest lacrosse player ever. I remember Jeremy Schaap's dad, Dick Schaap, saying that on his, not 30 for 30, it was the Sports Century, which they had before Andrew's time, about 20.
Oh, before me.
And he didn't have to have 14, 16, or 17 game regular seasons either.
And that was the big thing. Yeah.
And he retired at the age of 29, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Good life.
Made Barry look old when he retired.
So anyway, going back to the initial point, you have some futures that you like. I mean, we'll start off with the Eagles plus 100 to win the NFC East and over 11.5 wins.
Can't believe they're plus money.
Yeah. Yeah, and the over 11.5 is a small plus as well. The division play is the one I like the most. Now, did the Cowgirls do some good things? Yeah, I mean they got Stephon Gilmore, they got Brandon Cooks, they had a pretty good draft. But look, Philly lost 7 starters, but man, you talk about plugging some holes. Howie Roseman, the GM, did a great job. So in the first round, you get Jalen Carter at number 9, maybe the best overall player in the draft. Then you get another guy off Kirby's defense late in the first round, linebacker Nolan Smith. I love the safety Sidney Brown in the third round out of Illinois, 6 interceptions and a pick 6 last year. And then you also in the fourth round get another Kirby guy, Kelly Ringo at cornerback. You get DeAndre Swift in an absolute steal. Yeah. They gave away like a 2025 fourth rounder and a 7th rounder this year. And they get Rashad Penny, who's got a career yards per carry average of 5.7. And you still have Gainwell and Boston Scott, who were Miles Sanders' outstanding backups last year. So you're 4 deep in the running back room. You lose Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and you lose Javon Hargrave, which are big losses. But I like the way they plug their holes. And then you still got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, 2 of the best receivers in the NFL. And Jalen Hurts is not the kind of guy you have to worry about getting a massive contract. And then does he lose his hunger, his fire, anything like that? No. Jalen Hurts has got as good a head on his shoulders as anybody in the NFL and is as passionate about his craft as anyone, as you see by his improvement. An MVP candidate last year when he was a sophomore at Alabama. I don't know that any of us would have thought he could be like a legit starter Pro Bowl type of guy in the NFL.
Okay, so you're going to take a stab out because I want you to get into the Bengals because this is my division, obviously, with the Steelers. And I'm going to make the case to you, B, that every team got better than they were a year ago. That is going to be a gauntlet of a division. Because the Steelers will be better, and the Ravens look outstanding on paper.
Yeah, and the Ravens, look, man, we'll never know what would have happened with them last year if Jackson wasn't hurt. But they probably would have beaten the Bengals. Certainly could have beaten them anyway, if not for that 98-yard scoop fumble deal.
Beckham, Zay Flowers, Aguilar. Prochet, they are. Dobbins is healthy. I don't know.
Zay Flowers is going to be really good. I love him. But hey, I love more than anybody Joey flipping Burrow.
How much money has Burrow made you, Brian? Because you ride that guy crazy.
Yes, and I mean they covered 8 or 9 in a row there down the stretch last year. And
you have a cigar in your holster that you're about to just pull out and just pop in the mouth.
He made my 2019. I mean, I was betting. Now they got too expensive for the game late in the year, but they were still hitting those first quarters and first halves that senior year at LSU. And you know what? I did not realize this, and I almost drove off the road when I heard this on a podcast last week. Jamar Chase was committed to Florida before McElwain got fired. I never knew that.
Yep. What could have been? He wasn't that highly recruited coming out of high school. He was, but he wasn't. You know what? Not for what he turned out to be.
Who's Jamar Chase?
Right? He plays for the Bengals, gentlemen.
Oh, does it?
So, yeah, and I mean, I heard the music, so I guess we're closing out. But
11.5 is plus money. They won what, 12 a year ago?
Yeah, at
12,
least,
I
right?
think.
Yeah. So I'm not against betting the Bengals every way, sideways, with the AFC, Super Bowl, everything.
B, we appreciate you. Enjoy the day.
Thanks, Brian.
Fellas, y'all have a good one.
Bruntz up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Hey, top of the hour here on Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers. We are happy to have you with us on a Thursday. And before you ask, DB, before Bruntzy asks who is our next guest, no, my hit parlay did not hit last night. And no, my home run parlay did lose by
What is
one
wrong
leg.
with you?
One leg.
One leg?
One.
Isn't that what it always
leg.
is? It's always one leg.
Normally, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how many legs? 4?
I needed Josh
5?
Young in that Rangers game. Didn't do it for me.
How many runs did they end up scoring?
2.
Yeah.
3-2 game.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you have the Marlins walking off?
Hmm?
Did you have the Marlins walking off? How about how drunk was the Orioles game?
Crazy. But I did have Ohtani and Trout homering in the same game.
Yeah, they were playing softball in that one.
Whenever they homer twice, things
This
go
is
well.
12-8,
Not in my
right?
home run bet. Yeah, 12-8.
Yeah.
Lance Lynn was on the bump.
Yeah, he's seen better days.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen better days. I'm not sure what
is that how the Oakland A's are singing Bruntzy right now?
I don't know. They gave the Braves all they wanted.
Did you get any action on the A's winning the series? The Braves they made a lot of money there. I bet
That was 2 out of 3, right?
Where were you? I needed some tips.
2 out of 3.
2 out of 3
I have a lot of-
ain't bad.
I got a lot of friends who are Braves fans, and they haven't heard much from me this baseball season. But I sent a few texts after that series.
Isn't it amazing that you guys have won or lost 8 out of your last 10, and 2 of the wins are against arguably, at the end of the day, the team that will be the best team in the NL?
Yeah, there's something about it's got to be playing up to competition, right? They just don't play down the whole season.
I have a hard time believing the Braves are under 500 in their last 10, Bruntzy. And Acuna is still amazing. He's my preseason MVP pick, so I'm like, go Junior.
He is.
But dare to say it, I know they've been banged up. Should the Braves be better?
Probably.
It's kind of weird to say that. They got 33 wins. But I'm with you.
The team that showed up in Oakland, and mind you, it's very easy to sleepwalk there, but they really sleepwalked through that series. I was really surprised.
Oh, this is a hazy stadium. We've got about 1,500 people here today.
But half the Braves roster are former A's, so it's not like it's going to have been a big surprise.
Bruntz, I don't know if the A's have been affected by this at all, but could you say and we're talking Major League Baseball before anything else, could you say that in Major League Baseball that umpires are getting like out of control?
Dude.
Like the way that they're acting, the calls that they're making.
It's weird.
Yeah, I mean it's they're kind of turning into like college basketball referees doing the block charge thing. I mean it's they've been emphatic with the calls. I don't like. Is this like the last ditch thing for Major League umpires before the robots come in?
Yeah,
like they're just getting their all the bad calls out now, and then they bring in the robots.
You're probably right. Hey, one more, well, maybe a couple. We'll see, depending on what your answer is, because you've been on a roll the last couple of weeks. But would you rather try to predict the winner of the NL Central or the AL Central? Shout out Mike Schaefer and Brian Christopherson.
Yeah. I think I'd probably rather predict. I think the Twins can get it over the finish line in the Central, in the AL Central.
They're 2 games over 500, Bruntzy. Does that sound right?
I know. Yes, it does. It's a bad division.
He's like, you don't have to tell me.
I don't know. Like it's funny between the two of them. Like it's like who can hate their team the most and like be more apologetic for how bad their team is, and they're still right at the top of the standings. Like neither of those teams are very good. The White Sox are not good. I mean, they're better. The White Sox are not as good as they should be.
Dude, their window came and went in like 3 years.
It was quick, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you got the Royals who are trying and look a lot like my A's. And everybody keeps saying, well, the Tigers, they're close. Are they close? I don't know that they're close.
I just think the Tigers. See, I've said
I wouldn't say they're close
because I was on the Tigers last year, so I'm kind of hip to them. See, I think last year was so bad compared to the roster, and now they're starting to get some young pitching. And I think people like their manager, but people forget before he was an Astro, he was fired.
Yeah. Well, and like somebody the other day told me, like, yeah, the Tigers are like a couple years behind where the Orioles are. And I was like, I don't know about that. Like that seems a little bit much for me. I don't know. I'm always just kind of moderately intrigued by the AL Central because, you know, you don't have to be great to win that division. That's basically my takeaway.
I asked Phil Rogers before the season started because I was kind of on this.
Not my dad.
I was asking on this snark hype train. I was like, which of the teams is closer to their window shutting of they're supposed to be good every year? And it was between the White Sox and the Brewers. And they're both like on the struggle bus. But I think on this time I may take the Brewers. Every year, like, it's supposed to be, and granted, they've made some postseasons, at least in divisional games, but I don't know about the Brewers either. I keep hearing about this staff. I don't know.
Yeah, they underwhelm. I mean, it's the White Sox thing is interesting because supposedly the problem was just La Russa, right?
Yeah,
like,
that's what I heard.
I don't know. I mean, that was the big problem. Don't get me wrong, but it seems like they've got some other things they got to get right in the house first.
Tony La Russa.
Hey,
throwing that at me. All right, guys. I get it.
Level of surprise at the pitching departures in Lincoln.
Not high.
Mm.
Buns was a little surprising to me. Corbin Hawkins, that wasn't a surprise. You know, he's not going in the portal. So, you know, he's just hanging up the cleats and, you know,
he has been through it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a guy that was basically the last guy in the roster that, you know, completely reinvented his pitching motion. And, you know, credit to him. I mean, he was a really, really tough matchup at times this year. But yeah, I mean, it's when you kind of start lining up and you know, listing out what's not going to be back. You know, Shanneman's not going to be there. You knew that. Perry's not going to be there. You knew that. Hawkins, who was one of your better, higher leverage guys, not going to be back. You know, Buns, I think, was getting to the point where he was pitching with more confidence towards the end of the season, coming off that arm injury. He's not there. So, you know, you knew you were going to have to fill innings. You know, there's a pretty good chance you're going to have to fill a lot of innings in that weekend rotation. Yep. And now you got to figure out roles at the back of your bullpen too. And, you know, one of the things that Will Bolt highlighted in his last press conference was how do you build more pitching depth, and, you know, completely resetting the deck makes that a little bit tougher.
Bruntzy, you know, a lot of improvements throughout the season for this team. I mean, of course, they want to forget about all their midweek struggles going into next, but what do you think they can hang their hat on and build off of going into next season?
That's a good question. I mean, I think you've got some young pieces that you probably feel good about. I mean, Gabe Swanson's emergence is probably towards the front of that list. You know, I feel like Dylan Carey's a guy who, you know, is going to be much better as a sophomore than he was as a freshman. I mean, he really kind of ran into that freshman wall, I think, around the 40-game mark, especially at the plate. So I don't know. I mean, I would probably go with the offense. I mean, I think, you know, the problem that they're going to have is how do you get the pitching to where you can be competitive right away? Because, you know, getting weekend starters, you know, I think Nebraska's probably going to have to go in the portal and get a couple guys out of there. And I think they know that. But, you know, I think what they do have is they've got a younger group that, you know, you can kind of build around for next season. You know, and I don't think things are nearly as dire as maybe people think offensively with, you know, Anderson and Matthews probably going out the door. So I think that's probably where I would go. And then obviously the big questions around how do you kind of rebuild that pitching staff?
So if your glass is half full, one thing this staff has been pretty good at is offensive numbers typically have gotten better year over year. And I know you're going to lose two big guns, but do you have the most confidence in Nebraska offensively because of Bolt's track record thus far?
Yeah, I think so. Well, and I think it's easier to find bats that can help you right away than it is to find reliable arms. I don't think that's a stretch. Where Nebraska is located, the fact that you have a lot of guys, from this state that go into the junior college ranks in Kansas. I mean, I think you've already seen Nebraska's staff add kind of the replacement for Anderson, the replacement for Matthews more than likely. They've added some pop in the outfield too, with speed. So, I think that has the ability to come back a little bit faster. I mean, the thing that's tough in the portal, and I think they had over 500 guys go in the portal when the window opened on Monday, is everybody's looking for a Friday night guy. They're probably looking for a Saturday night guy if he's there. And it's just so elbows out competitive in the baseball transfer portal. And it really comes down to connections. I mean, when you look at everybody that they've added out of the portal in the last 2 years, it's like this guy played travel ball with this kid and this coach knows him. It's a really weird kind of game of telephone, but that's a little bit more competitive, I think. And then, you get now that you have the NIL stuff, that makes it doubly so. But Nebraska's going to have the opportunity to sell innings. I mean, you can go to a kid and say, look, we don't have, more than likely a Friday night guy coming back. So there's definitely a chance there if a guy wants to come in and, have a huge role right away.
Speaking of the portal, let's change gears and talk football. Logan Smothers parts ways and heads home, leaving the quarterback room even smaller than it once was. But I ask, does that matter much? Because, of course, you need depth at positions, but this is the one spot on the field where depth isn't everything. So do you think the team is still in good shape, or they need another body in that room right now?
It's a tough question. I mean, I think ideally you'd like to have 4 guys. I don't know how realistic nowadays it is to have 4 guys that you would, feel good about putting in a game. 3 is probably a more realistic number, which is where they stand. So it's a tough one though, because, if let's say you're in the portal looking for a guy, it's going to take, I think, a pretty special person to basically know that you're coming in and you're going to sit, because, Jeff Sims is there. He's the coaching staff's guy. He's basically the starter coming out of spring. There's not a huge chance to compete there for the job. I mean, maybe you find a Chubba Purdy type who's, really early in his career, but, I think they probably stand pat. I mean, I don't know that quarterbacks probably towards the top of where they would necessarily be looking to add somebody out of the portal. I think, if you're looking at spots where they're still probably considering things, I mean, I think if there's the right wide receiver, they would consider that. I think if there's, a front 7 player on defense, I think they would consider that. I don't know that quarterback is necessarily at the top of the wish list right now for them. I think they're okay with where they're at.
I think the world of your colleagues, and I always, and for different reasons, right? It's the thoughtfulness of Christofferson and his ability to be level-headed. Schaefer, who was high-strung, but man, does he love to grind. He's constantly at things. He's at a couple of high schools this week. With relative to what you think about Coach Rule's track record and development, how important compared to other schools do you think camping at Nebraska is for this staff?
In terms of their ability to evaluate,
yes,
or just the whole thing? Because
if they're two different things, you can expand.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, they want to see somebody in person.
No question.
We did a series in the spring where we looked at different areas of the country. We talked to assistant coaches, and I thought Rob Dvorak kind of put it really well, just in terms of kind of how they approach camps. Like they want guys in camp, And the really important piece for this staff, more than other staffs, I mean, you can offer off a film for sure, but they want an in-person evaluation. And whether that's, you know, in the spring when they're going around to different schools, which you kind of have to do that with, you know, being at Nebraska.
Yep.
But they're going to be really aggressive with trying to get guys to camps, you know, the freshmen, the sophomores, that they want to get a look at and see how guys move. You know, when you're in a camp setting, you're also able to see how coachable a kid is. Like if you teach him something, if you teach him something in one rep, is he going to do the correct thing the next rep? That's a big thing.
Good point.
So, you know, that being said, I mean, it's going to be the assistant coaches doing a lot of the teaching. It's one of those things that Matt Rule, I know, really values. They're going to be active in the satellite camp stuff a little bit more than maybe what Nebraska's been the last few years in Texas, which I think is smart. But no, camp season's really important for the staff. I was really kind of surprised at how I guess effusive they were with the importance of camps, because I think that's not the case everywhere nowadays. So it'll be important, and I think, you know, especially for kids that are, you know, going to like their sophomore years or their junior years, that's going to be really big.
It's interesting because I say that on the heels of your guys being out everywhere as locally, and as high school coaches, you know, we kind of have to say, okay, you can take a day off here or a day off there, make sure you get to camp. But I think in the back of my mind, and I use you as a sounding board just because I guess kind of your aptitude and thoughtfulness, but it's like in my head, I have to reconcile, gosh, it seems to be with school X, camping is a lot more important. So I have to take that into consideration. And my head coach Lamanji, we have to think about those things. So I was looking for somebody else to bounce those ideas off of, because I feel like if it's Nebraska or a couple of these other schools regionally, it seems to be more important to say yes to those days off than it normally would. Does that sound right?
To prepare for the camp stuff.
Yeah, like to let those guys, you know what I mean? Because we have to reconcile that in our own head. We're trying to get ready too, you know?
Right. Yeah. No. It's a balance for sure. I mean, and especially if you got kids that are, you know, playing basketball in the summer, or you got kids that are playing baseball or something like that. I mean, it's a lot, and you know, you try not to probably put too much pressure on. Okay, you're going to K-State on this day to camp, and you got to have a hell of a good day, or you're going to Nebraska and you got to, you know what I mean? Like you don't want to do that either. But I mean, I think there's probably a balance somewhere in there of like approaching those specific camps with intention, rather than just kind of, you know, you're going to show up, do some one-on-ones, and, you know, maybe you get a dry fit shirt out of it or something like that. Like
with a number that reaches like 430.
Yeah, number 341.
Yeah, player 217 out there. Woo, looking nice. Yeah. Go 217.
I you know, there's I think it was Dvorak. He told me, he's like, yeah, you know, you do all the combine type stuff. They're going to measure you and, you know, run you through drills and things like that. But I think they earnestly want kids to leave those camps, you know, having learned something. And I'll be curious to see how that kind of looks in practice. You know, it's between, you know, the camps that they have. I mean, you've got more team camps than probably what they've done at Nebraska in the past. They ditched the lineman camp, which I think was probably okay. I mean, I don't know that they really got the bang for their buck out of that they were hoping it would be. But, you know what? I think they're creative with what they're doing. I mean, they're doing a postgraduate and portal camp, which I think is really smart with the way things are now. And not so much of a, you know, they're going to have the Friday Night Lights camp, the one, but, you know, those felt like such big events. And I think the way that they're kind of lining things up now, it allows you to do a little bit more teaching, coaching, evaluating versus having just this massive group of people.
We're talking to Michael Bruntz, senior writer for Husker 24/7 at Michael Bruntz on Twitter. Bruntsy, Let's change gears and talk hoops. You mentioned being creative, and that is exactly what Fred Hoiberg has been this offseason. He's been very creative in reworking the roster, and then you get Casey back, which is also a huge addition, a huge piece toward next season. But do you think, comparing from last year's team to what you know about this year's team and what they could be, do you think that on paper right now that the team you're looking at for 2023-24 is better?
See, that's a tough one because what would make this coming year's group as good or better than last year's group are not like it's not the number stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I think they've got comparable pieces this year versus what they had last year. You know, I think they did a really nice job getting that big from Bradley. I think that's a big win for them.
Rank?
Yeah, Rank Math.
I really like Bryce Williams.
Yeah, I was going to get to him too. I mean, I think he's kind of that bigger, experienced. You know, it seems like they kind of took last year's blueprint and they kind of carried that over another year. You know, you've got, you know, a point guard who's kind of been through it in the Big Ten. You've got a little bit more size.
Right.
Ulis, a little bit more size.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a little bit more size on the perimeter, which I think they really liked having last year. You know, to me, it's like, okay, how do you make these pieces come together? Like that, because that was what I think kind of the secret sauce was last year was between Cassell, Bandamel, you know, Derek Walker, even Casey later on in the season. I mean, I felt like they had a chemistry that had been missing on previous Fred Hoiberg teams. And that's the tough part with constantly resetting your roster is, you know, everything can look good on paper, but, you know, how is everything going to play together? You know, that's the big question. I mean, I guess you benefit from having the international trip this summer to figure some of that stuff out. And even for, you know, you look at Casey, you know, I think he benefited from the way that last season's team was constructed because it was a lot of guys that played unselfish basketball, allowing him to kind of pick his spots rather than, you know, what he'd been doing before. So I think if they can get that nailed, I think that'll be huge for Tominaga. But it's not a definitive answer. But, you know, I guess the best answer I can give you as we sit here on June 1st is I don't know.
All right.
Like, everything looks right, but, you know, how the recipe comes together, we don't know yet.
Could I convince you that I like the roster better, considering I didn't know what was going to go on with Derek Walker at the beginning or in the offseason?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. Because I kind of do, and I don't want people to accuse me of drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
We know you like drinking Kool-Aid,
I
right?
hate Kool-Aid. I know I'm black, but I hate Kool-Aid.
Bruntz, good way to let you go. I'll see you later.
Sorry, Bruntz. My bad.
Pleasure as always. See you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Michael Bruntz, he was always a fun one on a Thursday.
Dude, he's fantastic.
When we come back, I want to revisit thoughts from Sam McKewon all the way at 8:30. We'll be back.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
I think now is the perfect time to give some love to our sponsors that keep us on the air. Digman's Collision Center we'll talk about first. Digman's is your one-stop shop for all your car needs. If you are in need of car repair, which I thought Ashley was going to need something done with her car yesterday, but she ended up figuring out her problem. So her key fobs, none of them were working.
Oh.
And so she went to the store, got new batteries, still not working. And so we're looking up like fixes on YouTube, and let's just say it was human error in the end because the battery was in backwards.
Oh,
so a case of
Shane, remember when I needed a new battery for my fob? They put it in there for me at is it Interstate Battery? It was the one that's on like 72nd and
It's Interstate.
They have a green sign with the little lightning bolt, and the dude laughed because he listened to the show in my former life, and he's like, "Yep, I kind of figured. I heard you talking about it, and." You don't know much about cars, so I was like, he may come to see us. I was like, damn. I guess so. Like, that was what he said.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know much about cars.
So Dingman's Collision Center, if you have a problem with your car, go to dingmans.com and check them out today. Also, College World Series right around the corner. So what are your plans? Do you have any? If not, you should be going to the opening day celebration, the kickoff party at Omaha Design Center. Outdoor pre-party experience, live DJ and yard games just 2 blocks from the stadium. You can reserve your kickoff party tickets for $20 a person at omahaeventgroup.ticketleap.com. We will be going. I just don't know where we'll end up being.
I think I have to work. I think like outside of my regular. I don't know if Louisville Slugger, like, am I doing that or not? Like,
you swinging the bat?
I don't know, man. I got to talk to CG.
And of course, if you are dealing with any personal injury, DB, you can always call Dyer Law as well.
Oh yeah,
because
there's no question about that. I'm just hoping like my recommendations, like it really pans out, because anytime if I'm like, hey man, just call 393-7529, like I have it like
memorized
in my Rolodex.
You memorize their number faster than the show's number.
Well, for us, it's 10 numbers. It's 10 digits.
That's true. Well, the first 3 are 888.
Well, sometimes I get confused with 800, 888.
Okay. I got you.
Why are you?
I got you. No. I just think it's funny how you could remember Dyer Law.
Don't make me get Jamie on you.
No, please don't. Please don't. DYER.law, because I'll send them back at you. I feel like Skip Bayless because I'm going to come after you.
Yeah, and the most predictable thing ever.
Hey, Tom Brady was better than you, DB. He was better than you.
You'd have to pay. You know what? If you said somebody was better than me, I don't know if I would be mad about it. It just depends on what it had to do
in the context of what we were talking about.
Yeah. If you were like, I don't know, you can say anybody.
Yeah. He was pushing his buttons for a long time on that show.
The problem with him is he's just not good at his job.
Just not smart.
You know, it's like, and the shtick got old. And I just think, sometimes
I think Shannon just got tired of it.
Friendship can run its course.
Yeah, it absolutely can. So we appreciate all of our great sponsors through the show, because we hope those don't run its course anytime soon. Going back to what we talked about with Sam McKewon, which we always enjoy talking. So we love every guest that we bring on the show, but Sam is special because he has insight that.
Here's what it is.
Maybe it's just how his brain works.
Here's how it is. He's not topical. So he's going to say something that's below the surface that's going to cause you to think. He reminds me a lot of BC in that way. Like, they're not going to go along just to get along.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to say something insightful, right?
Right.
And everybody has their own talents. One of the reasons I love Schaefer. He almost never agrees, but he has some good points. So I'm like, okay, let's see where this is going.
That's a great way to describe Mike Schaefer.
Because he thinks about
so everybody's unique, and that's what we love most. That's what we love most about the spread of guests that we have that we give you weekly. But one of the things you guys were talking about was revolving around the camp situation, and it was something that you brought up when you noticed when they sent the tweet out, like, "Hey, everybody come."
Yeah.
And that was like like, what are you trying to do here? Because I thought you only wanted people here that you thought needed to be here, not, hey, everybody come.
Mm-hmm.
But in the same light, what I was kind of getting at the back end of that segment was this coaching staff is intentional in everything that they do. And so to some degree, I'm like, okay, why are you intentional by telling everybody to come? Shouldn't you be intentional about the people that you want here? But then in another light, I think, well, they wouldn't have said it if they didn't have some type of hidden meaning, or if they didn't know what to do next.
Yeah.
And so that's why I didn't get taken aback by that. But they just don't take chances.
So that's the duality with me, right? Sometimes I really, really, really try to not make it personal.
Right.
Because it's not my journey.
Sure.
But it is my alma mater.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of...
And you know how the process works and how it has worked over the years.
Correct.
And so for me, what I thought about initially was this: intentional versus careless. If they weren't intentional by opening it up, it could be seen as careless down the line if year 1, year 2, year 3 hinders their credibility for how they're doing things. So they're kind of like leaving it open, like the school of thought is open, like, what are you doing here? What are you doing there? it's so general right now that you can't really get in trouble.
So the thing with me that I was processing through was I immediately think of my own players, right? I think of Trevor Spady or J.Q. Osler or R.J. Eckert or Bo Ryan or Teddy Rizak or whomever, right? Keenan Cotton. And I'm like, you guys will send this out and you're banking on the fact that they see it. That's a big dice to roll.
Okay.
And other schools are in the same vein.
Right.
Like, let's say you're not like Sam Thomas, right? And you're thinking to camp or whatever. There's a lot of different situations where kids may not see you. Sometimes I feel like you have to meet people right where they're at. Like, you got to go get them. Like you have to go get them. You kind of got to beat the bush.
A lot of people like to be desired. Actually, everybody in life,
and you
kind of
have to beat
wanted.
the bushes, right? But then I thought about it for I don't know, probably 30 hours or so, because I was thinking about all the kids in the state, primarily the metro, that I think are kind of flying under the radar, and I jotted down about 16 kids. A lot of schools, right? Because there's a lot of kids that I like around other schools,
really good football
that deal us fits, right?
From different classes.
So I'm like, God,
not just
he could benefit, but is he following him? So then I was like, man, reach out to these guys. Like, you guys are so good with the high school coaches. But then I thought about something. I'm like, you know what? In every other state, especially a state without a pro team or another Division I college football team. So it's not like Iowa. It's not like you're like, oh man, I got to decide between Iowa and Iowa State or go to both. Like, it's just Nebraska. So then I was like, man, even in Texas, if it's Texas or TCU or Houston or A&M or wherever, like
Tech,
those guys are just looking to see where those camps are.
And they want to be in front of the best coach.
And so they go. Like, they just go.
Best players.
They go.
Because if you don't go, then you'll get left behind.
But then I had to go back and reconcile. I'm like, well, shoot, Nebraska hasn't been good, and there are other schools that are recruiting in the state, so maybe they need to try a little harder. So I went from feeling one way to then reconciling to then feeling another.
Right.
And I think at the end of the day, I kind of rested in the fact that in any other states, those kids are looking to see when those camps are, and they're coming anyway. I think.
Yep. But when I was getting recruited for baseball, I waited for emails because I was on a list.
Yeah.
Like a mailing list. Because I wasn't.
So I tried
Twitter was big.
I tried
but
to pull
huge.
myself out of the equation. Like, what does the general populace think, or how do they respond?
But then it was up to me if I chose to go to the open camp or not, when I got the open invite. So that's when I then went back to the main point of, well, if they're just making it a general push out, no matter what, it's in front of me. Now I get to make the choice if I'm going to go or not.
Well, how do you feel about if a kid thinks he hasn't been getting Division I love? Are you for a go camp anyway?
Been there, done that.
I guess kind of how I want guys to be here locally, because you never know what
been
they're
there.
looking for.
I went to
three
different Division I camps, 3 different ones, and I never got a D1 look.
Yeah, just go, right?
Because I wanted to surround myself with the best players.
So I go back and forth.
6-pack next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Time now for the Sports Six-Pack on Coffee and Cream with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning. Presented by Zipline Brewing Company, makers of Dear Old Nebraska Brew, the official beer of Nebraska alumni.
Sports Six-Pack time, presented by Zipline Brewing.
Oh, we gotta get through this.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna think fast.
we always butt up. I know we butt up to time, but let me tell you quickly about who Zipline is and what they do. How about the Beer Hall South Lincoln? This is their take on classic German beer hall, where the community comes together to share their days over a common table. And they stress community connection through offering yoga and interactive games of all kinds. Check out Zipline. If you are looking for either a new beer to try or, hey, I'm looking for an everyday regular beer, Zipline has the beer for you. Shane, what do we got?
Question number 1.
He's just excited to drink, Lush.
No, I didn't get to read through these, so.
Oh, here he
goes.
So you
hooked on phonics.
There's no way. Heck, we're going to get through all this.
Here we go.
We are less than, is that 100? We are less than 100 days until the start of the NFL regular season, whether it was through the draft, free agency, or just by re-signing. Which team would you say has made the biggest leap so far from last year to now in terms of acquiring by spending?
Easy.
I have mine.
I'll let you go first.
I was going to say the New York Giants.
Very good, underappreciated team.
Mm-hmm.
I like that pick. Not mine. I'm going over to the other conference. Most improved team in football, considering the offseason they've had. That would be the Baltimore Ravens.
That's a good one. really good one too.
The Baltimore Ravens scare me quite a bit, and there's two teams that I hate not named Dallas: the Cleveland Clowns and the Baltimore Cravens.
Yeah, I think the Detroit Lions did a really nice job in the draft, but in terms of acquiring by spending, I mean, you splurge on your quarterback.
I'm telling you.
You splurge on your running back. You get Darren Waller. Like, you put together some nice offensive pieces now up there in New York.
And
their
Dable
defense.
and Danny
Mhm.
Dimes. It's a nice little marriage.
I'm
And by
for
the
it.
way, you mentioned the Lions. I'm still not sure why we keep hating on golf. Go back and look at Detroit's offensive numbers.
I think it's just easy to hate on
Those
golf.
he's played in the Super Bowl.
Right.
Those
Well,
sons of guns.
Did he play in the Super Bowl?
Dude,
yes.
he balls.
Did he succeed in the Super
Dude,
Bowl?
I'm telling
Heck
you, man.
no.
Detroit balls on offense.
Question number 2.
Tony in Omaha, get creative.
Oh,
Yeah,
Lord.
please, Tony, get creative. If you had to come up with a team slogan for the 76ers using Nick Nurse's name, what would it be?
Wait a minute. One more time.
Slower?
No, just read it again. I'm not.
If you had to come up with a team slogan for the 76ers using Nick Nurse's name, what would it be?
Nursing them back to health.
Yeah.
Nursing Joel Embiid's knee injuries.
Hey, without Ben Simmons, 10 days later, go see the doctor.
I'm all for it. Hey, I believe it's what an apple a day keeps the nurse away.
Hey, get Simmons around an orchard.
Hey, they're just nursing.
Yeah. Milking from the old. Can't say that word on radio.
Oh,
Go ahead.
well,
Shane.
I was thinking more. Did you see what Josh Hart tweeted the other day?
Yeah.
I think that's where your head was at there.
How about this?
Nice culture.
How about this name? I'm just nursing my beer.
No.
Question number 3.
That is what you do.
Who is the most important player to the Jays' success next year?
I'm gonna go with Ashworth. I think I'm gonna say Ashworth because you had to replace Ryan Nembhard, and those are big shoes to fill, especially after we saw Nembhard take over in games last year. I'm not saying that's going to be Ashworth, but he has to be productive. He's got to match productivity. And whether that's in the way that he plays the game or whether that's actually in the scoring column, you have to get productive minutes out of him, and he's got to be one of your better players. So I'm going to go with him being the most important player to the success.
I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit. Give me Trey Alexander. The glue guy. He's clutch, and he's been there, done that. Give me Trey Alexander. How about that?
Shane just taking phone calls.
Might be my man, Razor Ramon.
What number am I on?
4.
4.
You're terrible.
Question number 4.
I've been drinking. What do you expect?
I've been drinking.
Thought you were nursing.
I am.
Babysit for sure.
But for me, that's drinking. James in Omaha, everybody okay? You can do all right?
You're going to be all right?
Nebraska's first game is prime time. We good? I wouldn't want anyone to get hurt. I know DB hates schedule talk, but for me, that Thursday can't come soon enough.
7
Get excited, James.
7 p.m. kick. And Colorado's got to play at 9 a.m. their time. I'm pretty happy
Ooh,
about
is it going to
that.
be too cold? Is it going to be cold? August 31.
You gonna be okay?
Stop it. Just stop it. There's a reason we don't have times in November for Michigan State, Maryland, Wisconsin, but we do have Iowa. It's 11 a.m. It's not at night. Since the NFL is encroaching. Oh, I'm hyped, man. Let's get it.
Let's go.
Let's get it. I'm all in on Minnesota 7 p.m. Thursday. And guess what?
Hey, I heard we got passed along some Minnesota media members were taking some shots at Jeff Sims. Maybe we'll get into that tomorrow on the show.
Yeah, message board fodder.
I love it. I love it.
Put it on the board.
Question
Yeah.
number 5.
Which movie coach is Coach Rule most like? Grant Taylor from Facing the Giants, Herman Boone from Remember the Titans, or Eric Taylor from Friday Night Lights?
One more time. That's a good one. One more time. Buy me some time.
Okay, so which movie coach is Coach Rule most like? Grant Taylor from Facing the Giants, Herman Boone from Remember the Titans.
Not him.
Or Eric Taylor, E.T. from Friday Night
Give me
Lights.
Grant Taylor. Because that movie is also a Christian movie, and I'm going to go back to Coach Rule's roots, preacher's kid, and the way that he coaches, it's a lot like what I see in that movie.
I know he's a care, not coddle, but I'm just telling you, that whole bear crawl.
You can do it! Come on, Jake! 10 more yards!
I love the movie. Brock. It is Brock. Build me that wall! Build me that wall!
That's Trump.
Wow. I don't know if we can be friends.
I think it's Stonewall, though, in the movie.
So here's the thing. I'm going with Grant. I'm going with Friday Night Lights. Eric. Because, Shane, at the end of the day, he wants to win. He's going to love you through it, but you do have to play by his rules.
Coach Rule?
Although I can't get the voices of truth out of my head. The voice of truth
Casting Crowns
tells a different story.
Voice of truth says do not be afraid.
I had Facing the Giants on DVD. You can't even read the words. I played it so much.
That's awesome.
Dude, that was my jam.
Mm-hmm.
One of the greatest songs is when she finds out she's pregnant. Play that song. I think it's called Incomplete.
I can't remember, but yes, I know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm.
And this is for Mary Taylor.
It's the montage scene. Oh, that's such a good scene. All right, Shane.
They run out to her car. She's like in that Ford Explorer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need me?
Question number 6.
Yes.
Love that movie.
Would you rather have a pause or a rewind button in your
How
life?
fast is Musclehead driving that car? That cat. Oh my goodness, he took that corner
Shane,
sharp.
Musclehead was going about 60 mile an hour in that in that parking lot.
All right, Shane, would you rather what?
Answer the phone or have the sports six-pack? Shane
All right,
rather answer
have
the
a
phone.
pause button or a rewind button
I'm
on your life.
99% sure Shane rather answer the phone.
I would rather have a pause button.
Does he realize we didn't hear the question?
I think it's a pause or rewind button in your life.
Rewind.
I think I'd rather pause and take in the moment.
Nah, I'm pretty good about thinking on the fly, understanding my decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I would like to walk somebody through it before I say what I say.
Okay.
I'm definitely going rewind. Seriously,
You
rewind.
get a lot more done if you rewind, because I could
Dude,
if you wanted to punch somebody in the
how about
face,
in our
you
meetings?
could, and then just
Remember,
rewind.
I'm a desired outcome guy. What's the desired outcome?
Right.
And I know when I say something, especially if it's over text, I probably mean it, and I've thought my way through it.
Right.
I would probably hit rewind so I could tell you why I said it first.
Right.
Can I tell you which I would want?
What?
Neither. I would want slow motion. Because I wouldn't want to
You
necessarily
already live life in slow motion.
Stay on delay anyway. What difference does
I didn't
it make?
say I wanted. I didn't say I wanted to hit the delay button, because that's what we do when we curse.
No, that's the dump button.
The dump button. I said I want to be on slow motion because I don't.
Slow
I don't.
motion's better than no motion.
I don't want to rewind back to when I was 6.
T-shirt slogan. I tell kids that all the time.
And I don't necessarily want to pause it right now, but I wanted to go a little bit slower than what it is.
Yeah, finish your 6th beer, since that'll never happen.
And I want to keep nursing my beer.
Oh, hey, thanks, Shane. You can finish your 6-pack now silently.
Go to your room. That was the 5th question, not the
No,
6th.
6.
We got through 6?
We did. We sped. And we hit time today.
Like 35 and a 25?
I thought we were going to get to Ramon. Ramon, call back tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think he's talking about my guy. So, great John Beasley.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very, very, very good family.
Man, I'm sorry to hear that. Stuff. It's okay.
I'm not baby steps. I've been getting. I'm good. Let's not go there. Tomorrow.
Let's cut it there. How about that? Thanks for joining us on today's show. For Damon Benning, Shane Schillerberg, I'm Andrew Rogers. That's Coffee and Cream. Tune back in tomorrow.